can always hear something in the Hive, even in the lowest levels, deep under the smog-choked skies of Necromunda. The city hums like a dying god. Machines grind, steam hisses, ducts rattle, pipes groan under the weight of 10 billion souls stacked on top of each other like bones in a grave. But in Sector Delta 17, there was only silence. And silence in a hive is never good. I am Enforcer Marn Tyvak. Hive Primus is my beat. Or at least it was. If you're hearing this, it means something survived. And it sure as hell wasn't me. 3 days ago, the Vox went dead. At first, we thought it was interference. Happens all the time. Dust storms roll in from the ash wastes, clog up the antenna arrays, or knock a relay tower offline. But Sector Delta's signal didn't just get noisy. It vanished. No static, no ping, no low-channel hiss. Just nothing. Like the signal never existed. Protocol said to wait 12 hours before deployment. Tech Priest Verdun ran diagnostics, claimed it was an isolated mechanical anomaly. Standard words, no real answers. Hive admin told us to log it and move on, but we knew something was wrong. The civvies in that sector, workers mostly, weren't the kind to stay quiet. Down there they live off routine. Wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Miss a shift, and the sump floods. Miss a drill rotation, and the fans clog. It all breaks fast when the rhythm dies. And the rhythm was dead. We suited up. 4 of us. Full carapace armor. Filtered rebreathers. Stubbers and las carbines. I led the team. Beside me, Bastin, my second. Krail, comms, and Idrin, heavy gun. Good men. Or at least good enough. The lift to Delta 17 was slow. The lights flickered every 10 seconds. Smelled like rust and old oil. Halfway down, Krail tried pinging the sector again. Still nothing. Feels wrong, Idrin muttered. He always talked too much when he was nervous. Everything feels wrong in this place, Bastin said. It's Necromunda. I didn't respond. I just watched the descent counter tick lower and lower. Sector Delta 17 wasn't deep by Hive standards, but it wasn't clean either. Mid-tier level, close enough to see the sky from a Spire window, but low enough to taste the sump rot in your lungs. When the doors finally opened, we were greeted by stale air and flickering lumen strips. No people, no sound, no welcome. Just a hallway stretching into the dark. We stepped out. Krail checked his auspex. No life signs, he said, then paused. Wait. One flicker. Then it vanished. Might be interference. I nodded. Move. Sweep pattern Delta 5. We advanced slowly. Lights crackled above us. The floor was sticky in places. Dried fluid, thick and brown. Could have been oil. Could have been something worse. The first hab block was empty. Lights on, doors open, meals half-eaten on steel trays. Blank pick screens glowing faintly. It looked like people had just gotten up and walked out. Like they'd been called somewhere. No signs of struggle, no blood, just gone. Bastin leaned into one room and said, "This isn't right, Tyvak." I agreed, but I didn't say it. We had to follow protocol. Had to believe it was just a systems glitch. Maybe a malfunctioning sanitation alarm forced an evacuation. Maybe there was a leak. Maybe. Then we reached the comm station, or what used to be one. The terminal had melted, not exploded, melted. The metal sagged like candle wax, the Vox grill drooping toward the ground. The chair behind it had fused into the floor. No sign of a body, but the smell. It hit us like a wave. Burnt flesh. Sweet and chemical. Wrong. Krail covered his mouth. Emperor's blood, he muttered. That's not natural fire damage. Idrin checked his flamer. We expecting resistance? We're expecting answers, I said. Keep moving. The corridor past the station curved into the outer tunnels, the access points to the sump filters. This is where the workers went during maintenance shifts. We followed the path, passing more empty rooms, more silence. Then we found the helmet. Just one. It sat in the middle of the hallway. An enforcer's helm, just like ours, placed perfectly upright. The visor had been shattered, but inside, something gleamed. Idrin picked it up and instantly dropped it. "There's something inside it," he hissed, backing away. I moved closer, weapon raised. Inside the helm was a mass of what looked like nerves, wet black strands twisted into a tight knot, pulsing faintly, like it was breathing. Krail took a photo. The light from his pict recorder flashed, and the vox on his belt came alive. Just a single word. Stop. We froze. The signal wasn't one of ours. No frequency code, no origin tag. "Repeat that," I said. Krail tried, but the vox just hissed. The word didn't come back, just that empty static. We pressed forward. The sump corridor opened into a large maintenance bay. Huge machines lined the walls, all inactive. On the far side, we saw them. People, or what used to be people. They were hanging from the ceiling, by hooks, by cables, by their own spines twisted and wired into place. Skin pale, eyes gone, mouths open in silent screams. No blood, just stillness. The bodies swayed slightly, even though there was no wind. Idrin vomited in his mask. Bastin said a prayer under his breath. Krail dropped to one knee and shut his eyes. I didn't move, because one of them wore an Enforcer uniform. It was Graddick. He'd gone missing last week in Sector Epsilon, never found the body. And here he was, eyes hollow, chest split open. Something inside him had written words across the wall in thick, oozing ichor. "It knows." I turned on my recorder. "This is the first log. Hive Primus is sick. Something's wrong here. Something old. Something hidden beneath the rust and rot. If you hear this, do not come to Delta 17. Do not listen to the vox. Do not follow the silence, because the silence is listening back. Smell always comes first, before the screams, before the sightings. Before anyone admits something's wrong, the nose always knows. And in Hive Primus, something had begun to stink. Not sump rot, not decay. That's normal. You live in a hive long enough, and you stop noticing the background filth. But this was different. It started when we got back from Delta 17. We sealed the level, marked it as biologically compromised, sent a partial report to Hive Command. Just enough to tick the right boxes, not enough to get buried under 20 layers of bureaucracy. Then we scrubbed down, full decon, acid wash, gear incineration, standard procedure, but I still smelled it. Through the mask, through the steam, through the sterile scrub of the decon room. A thick, oily smell, like meat left in a furnace, sweet and cloying but burnt. Rotting metal mixed with flesh. Everyone on the team noticed it. Even Krail, who'd gone half numb from the shock. He didn't talk much now, just stared at his Vox unit. It was still hissing. I took a solo patrol 2 levels up. Sector Gamma 9. Official reason, investigation into missing HAB workers. Unofficial reason, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those hanging bodies swaying in the still air. And that word, it knows. Gamma 9 was supposed to be clean. Middle Hive sector, heavy manufacturing, filtration workers, water processing. The kind of people who lived and died by the clock. You mess with their air, their pressure lines, or their sump chemistry, and entire blocks go sterile in hours. But Gamma 9 wasn't sterile. It was leaking. The corridor leading in was wet, not just sump water or waste runoff. This was thick, clinging, almost gelatinous. Every step made a sound like pulling boots from syrup. It stained my gloves when I touched the walls, amber-colored slime that shimmered faintly under my helmet's lamp. And then came the smell. Strong now, overpowering, not just from the walls, from the drains. They pulsed. I bent down near one of the grated exhausts and felt heat coming from below. Not mechanical heat, this was wrong. It felt alive. I tried calling in, no response. Even the emergency Vox line was dead, just like in Delta 17. I reached pump station 47 Beta. The door was locked, sealed from the inside. Lights above the doorway blinked red and white, flickering like they couldn't decide what warning to give. I pried the door open with a servo clamp. The smell hit like a hammer. Inside, the room was red. Not lit, just red. Every surface, every pipe, every control panel was coated in a thick blood-colored sludge. It dripped from the ceiling. It oozed from vents. It pooled on the floor. But there were no bodies. Only helmets. 7 of them. Hive workers, lined up perfectly along the far wall, arranged as if watching something we couldn't see. The pump in the center of the room was still active. Barely. It pulsed slowly, like a heart struggling to beat. Each thump pushed more of the red sludge through the wall tubes. It was breathing. I could hear it. Low, deep, steady. Not machine noise. Something wet, gurgling, rhythmic. I stepped forward, and the moment my boot touched the center grate, the pump let out a sound. A whisper. I don't know how else to explain it. The machine whispered through its hissing pipes. Not loud, not angry. Just drink. I froze. The Vox on my belt flared to life again. Same voice from Delta 17. No ID, no code. Drink. It wasn't talking to me. It was talking to the pump. The sludge bubbled. Heat rose. The helmets on the wall began to tremble. Then something inside the grate moved. Fast. Something with fingers. I ran. Back through the corridor. Through the syrup-thick puddles. I didn't stop to record it. I didn't care about procedure. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't supposed to be here. It wasn't human. It wasn't even Xenos. It was Hive-born. Born of us. Twisted. I made it back to the tram. Slammed the lockdown lever. Hit the alarm. No response. Hive command was dark again. Everything was still. Back in our Enforcer bunker, Idrin was waiting. He hadn't removed his helmet. Just sat in the dark, watching old training reels play on loop. Propaganda vids. Loyalty oaths. I tried to speak, but he held up a hand. Don't, he said. You smelled it too, didn't you? I nodded. He turned toward me. It's moving through the vents now. I heard it last night. A sound like sucking. Like someone trying to drink soup through a hole in the wall. Where's Baston? I asked. Gone. What? Left just after you did. Said he heard a signal. Said something was calling. Calling from where? Idrin just looked at the wall. I checked Krail next. He hadn't moved since the decon. Just sat cross-legged, helmet off, holding the Vox to his ear. He was crying. I asked what he heard. He whispered, "They're still here, Marn. Everyone from Delta 17. They're not dead. They're just deeper now. The Hive took them in." I shook him. "What are you talking about?" Krail looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. He pointed to his chest. I feel it breathing. Inside the walls. Inside me. It's not done yet. That night, I walked the corridor alone. Couldn't sleep. The smell was stronger now, even in our own block. The fans were still working, but the air tasted sweet. Too sweet. Like honey soaked in rust. At the far end of the hallway, I found something scratched into the wall. Not painted, not inked. Scratched. Long, deep gouges, 5 words. Under the steel it grows. Below it the metal was warm to the touch. And the wall. It was pulsing, like breath. like hunger. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 2. Hive Primus is not dying in silence. It's breathing through steel, it's waking up, and it smells everything. There are no children in the lower hive. Not officially, not on the work rosters, not in the census rolls, not in the ration queues. Childhood down here isn't something you live through. It's something that gets erased, fast. You either grow up or get swallowed by the pipes. So when I saw the girl, I knew something was wrong. She was maybe 8 standard years. Small, dirty. Her skin pale like ash-washed linen. Her feet bare. Her hair matted with oil. She was sitting cross-legged on top of a half-collapsed vent fan in Gamma 9's corridor fork, humming to herself in perfect tune with the hive's distant rumble. And her eyes, they were all black. No iris, no white, no blink. Just polished orbs that reflected every lumen, every motion, like twin void mirrors. She shouldn't have been there. But there she was, alive, watching, and humming. I froze 10 steps away. My first instinct was to call it in, but the Vox was still dead. Just faint static and a low clicking sound that matched the beat of my heart. I approached slowly. She didn't run, didn't flinch. She turned her head as I got closer. Her neck moved too smoothly, too evenly, like a servo motor without resistance. I dropped to one knee. "What's your name?" I asked. No answer. "Where are your parents?" She looked at the wall behind me, then back to me, and spoke in binary. Sharp bursts. Machine code, spat in perfect rhythm. INFONODATANOCIVILC I stared. That wasn't speech. That was a scan reply. Exactly like a cogitator when it fails to recognize an input. I reached for my datapad. As soon as I powered it up, the girl's eyes pulsed faint blue. Not glowing, but shining like light was leaking out from behind the sockets. Then she screamed. Not a loud scream, not human. It was digital. A sharp, compressed burst. Like a Vox beacon cranked to max for a single second. It wasn't pain. It was alert. And it echoed. The hallway lights above us flickered. The floor hummed. Something answered the scream from beneath the steel. I moved, grabbed her by the arm. She didn't resist, just went limp, like a doll made of bones and wire. I took her back with me. She hummed the entire walk. Same song, same note, over and over. Idrin stared at the girl like she was a ticking bomb. Krail wouldn't even look. He had wrapped a rag around his head and curled in the corner. Said he was filtering the echoes. "She's not one of ours," Idrin muttered. "You saw those eyes." "She's alive," I said. "She's a transmitter." I knew what he meant. In the past, the Chaos cults had wired transmitters into slaves, turned children into living signal nodes, broadcasting corruption, looping prayers to dark gods. But this felt different. She didn't chant. She didn't preach. She just watched, and that humming never stopped. I tried recording her voice. The picked recorder overloaded, just spat out 5 seconds of white screen and melted audio. The machine priests arrived within the hour. Verdan came himself, flanked by 2 servo-skull drones and a pair of red-robed assistants with no faces left under their hoods. Their robes smelt like incense and sterilizing flame. Their boots hissed with each step. They didn't speak to me. They didn't ask. They just took her, strapped her into a float rig. One of them scanned her spine and made a soft sound, half awe, half disgust. Verdan turned to me. "She is touched," he said. "Touched by what?" "By memory." "Whose memory?" Verdan tilted his head, then said something I will never forget. "The Hive's." That was yesterday. Today she's gone, not just missing, gone. No records of her arrival. No logs of the tech priest's visit. No report of a child at all. Even the pick feed I tried to record was wiped. Blank data. System says it was never turned on. Krail won't stop shaking now. He keeps whispering, "She's still here." I ask where. He points to the walls. Listening, growing. Her song isn't hers anymore. I checked the corridor where I found her. The fan she sat on had rusted through. Melted, actually. Like something inside it had burned outward. I scraped the inside of the pipe and found marks. Etched, repeating patterns, like circuitry burned into bone. I sent the image to Hive archives. No reply. But 5 minutes later, our hab block's lights shut off completely. System blackout. Even the backup lumen strips didn't come on. And in the dark, the humming started again. From every direction. From inside the walls. This is Enforcer Tyvak. Log entry 3. Hive Primus has begun remembering. Not people, not events, itself. And it's using our loss to do it. If you see a child with black eyes, don't touch them. Don't speak to them. Don't let them hum. Because what's singing through them was never born human. It began with the lights. Not a flicker. Not a power failure. Not the usual slow death of rusted wiring and low priority maintenance. No, this was something else. The lumens changed color. They didn't dim or fail. They shifted. From the usual yellow-white glow of the Hive's sodium bulbs to something colder. Something unnatural. Blue. Not soft blue, not comforting. Not sky blue, the kind people on the upper spires talk about but never really see. This was sharp, cold, like frost trapped in glass. The biolumen arrays in the corridors of Sector 43 activated all at once. A full circuit surge. No power reroute, no admin override. Just every lumen turning blue at the same second. It was the same shade as the girl's eyes. I found out from a sanitation drone report. Its last transmission came with one image before going dark. A hallway bathed in blue, smeared with streaks of thick black fluid running from the ceiling to the floor. The floor panels were wet, as if recently scrubbed, but not by human hands. And in the middle of the hallway, a single pair of boots, empty, Enforcer issue. I suited up again. Idrin wanted to come. I told him no. Too risky. I'll ping if I see trouble. He stared at me through his helmet and said, "Tyvak, everything is trouble now." I didn't argue. He was right. Sector 43 was 2 levels down and 1 kilometer across. I took a maglev most of the way, then walked the final tunnel on foot. As I approached the entry checkpoint, the blue glow began to show through the bulkhead seams. It was constant, unblinking, unnatural. Hive lumens don't do blue. There's no atmospheric need for it. It wastes energy. The machines aren't programmed for it. The Mechanicus banned its use cycles ago because it attracted sump fly swarms and disrupted low-band servitor behavior. So where was it coming from? I checked the panel by the door. No energy signature, no live wire, no functioning lumen grid. The entire sector was listed as powered down. But the light still poured through the door crack like it was alive. I opened it, and I stepped into another world. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Again, but deeper this time. Not the silence of broken systems, but the kind that pushes back, that crushes every step, that turns your breathing into an echo. Then came the smell. Again. Thick, chemical sweet, like antifreeze and mold. And under that, the same scent I'd caught in Delta 17, the one from the pump room, like burned flesh dipped in syrup. The hallway ahead glowed blue, casting long shadows that didn't quite match my shape. I passed a mirror set into the wall, part of a security post. I looked. I froze. My reflection wasn't moving. It stood still, head tilted slightly, breathing slowly, but I hadn't tilted my head. Not yet. I turned away fast. That's when I saw the writing, carved into the walls, across every steel surface. Blue is the birth color. Over and over. Some scratches were fresh, some layered under others. They spiraled out from each lumen like a sunburst of madness. I moved on and found the nest. It was in the old Medici wing, long since abandoned. No more doctors, just empty cots and broken machines. But now the center of the room had been remade. A perfect ring of lumen tubes, ripped from ceilings and walls, now bent and shaped into a crude altar. And around it, bodies, dozens, not lying down, kneeling, still, eyes open, black and dried, skin stretched tight, every one of them facing the center, all their mouths, smiling. They had melted into the floor, no gore, no force, just fused, like wax left too long in heat. Their backs were partially absorbed by the metal panels, as if the hive had tried to swallow them whole and stopped halfway. And above them, suspended in the blue glow, was a single servo skull, still twitching, still blinking, but its red lens had turned blue. I scanned it. No ID, no data core, no origin. It hovered for a moment, then turned to face me, and sang, only one note. A pure, high-pitched chime, like a tuning fork pressed into bone. My helmet filters cracked under the pressure. Blood filled my mouth, my vision blurred, but my eyes, they stayed open. I couldn't blink, I couldn't move. For exactly 12 seconds the world froze, and in those 12 seconds I saw, not hallucinations, memories, but not mine. Steel ribs stretching for miles, hearts made of reactors, walls breathing, the hive, alive, old, rotting, dreaming. Then it stopped. The servo skull dropped, crashed to the floor, its lens shattered, its glow gone. Everything turned dark. The blue was gone, just like that. No fade, no shutdown sequence, just black. I ran, didn't look back. I could feel the corpses in the Medici wing watching me, smiling. I could feel the steel still warm under my boots, still soft. Back in the bunker, I collapsed. Idrin caught me. "You saw it, didn't you?" he whispered. "What?" "The blue." I nodded. Krail was gone, just gone. No gear, no note, just a message scratched into the wall where he slept. "The light wants a body." I don't sleep now. I don't blink much either. Because sometimes, in the dark corners of the bunker, when the emergency lumens fail, they glow blue. Even when there's no power, even when there's no reason, even when I close my eyes. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 4. The hive is changing, the light has changed, and we have no place left to hide from it. When the lumens burn blue, do not stare back, or the hive might remember your face and call you home. They didn't scream, they didn't run, they didn't fight. They just walked, one by one, in groups, in silence, down corridors, into vents, into cracks between steel panels where no human should ever fit. They vanished like dust into the dark, and no one stopped them, not even themselves. Hive Segment 43, lost 317 citizens in less than 3 hours. It began with a shift change, standard rotation, machine operators, filtration mechanics, mid-tier sump techs, people who knew the hive's guts better than any enforcer ever would. They weren't weak, They weren't afraid. They just stopped. The shift commander's log showed that the workers had reported in at 0600. All clear. By 900, none of them responded. Not to Vox pings, not to overrides, not even to alarms. The doors had to be cut open. Inside, everything looked normal. Lockers undisturbed, tools placed neatly on benches, lumen strips humming overhead. But the people? Gone. No blood, no tracks, no signs of struggle. Just 63 sets of work boots in a perfect circle around the main elevator shaft. Laces tied, clean. Waiting. I was sent in with Idrin and 2 Hive admin reps, Overseer Garl and Data Clerk Melter. They didn't believe me about Delta 17 or the girl. They still treated this like a procedural incident. Could be a mass override event, Garl muttered as we stepped into the locker hall. Or tech heresy, workers sabotaging the shift logs. I said nothing. The air was wrong, cold but heavy, like the pressure was pushing in from every direction, and there was that smell again, underneath the oil and rust. Sweet, familiar now, faint, like rot sprayed with perfume. I took the lead. My boots crunched lightly on something soft. I looked down. Fingernails. Hundreds of them. Scattered across the floor like they'd been pulled off by hand. Garl saw them too. He didn't speak again after that. The central shaft was open, normally sealed, normally secured by admin keys and Mechanicus right locks. But today it stood wide, gate hanging half disconnected, pulled inward like it had been bent by a titan's hand. We peered down. Darkness, not just lack of light. A black that swallowed your sight. The kind of dark that moved when you looked too long. I pinged a probe, dropped a servolens drone down. The feed returned fuzzy, then stable. Then it showed something I still can't explain. Not people, silhouettes. Hundreds of them. Walking, not running, not climbing, just walking downward. Through walls, through rubble, through sealed hatches. Each of them identical in size and stride. Each of them glitching, like a broken vidreel. They would twitch, repeat steps, split into fragments, merge again. They left no heat signatures, no Auspex tags, just motion, and then the feed cut out. Adrian whispered, "Did they go willingly?" I didn't answer, because I already knew the truth. They did. We found the break room next, a small chamber, meal packs still steaming, cups of recaf still warm, picked feeds still running. No one had touched a thing. Melter checked the security logs. No footage between 0810 and 0903, she said. Like someone deleted the files before they happened. She tried rerouting, pulled a corrupted fragment, just 8 seconds long. It showed the workers sitting quietly, then suddenly standing in unison, as if called. No signal, no alarm, just command. Then they walked out of frame, except for one, a man in the back corner. He stayed seated, looked confused, looked scared. Then his face twisted, and he screamed, but not aloud. No sound came from his mouth. Instead, the lumen above him flickered blue, and then he vanished. The footage ended. Melter shut her console. She started praying, quiet, fast, shaky. We left the break room and followed the trail deeper, down a maintenance chute that had never been mapped, through a hall filled with mirrors, a strange architectural relic from a pre-collapse design. And that's when we found the pile. Clothes, boots, communications units, helmets, stacked neatly in a spiral around a drain vent. At the center of the spiral was a single Enforcer badge, mine. But I'd never been there. I picked it up. It was scratched, bent. My name was on it, my ID code, but I'd never lost it. I checked my uniform. My badge was still there, still attached, still clean. The one in my hand was dripping. Blue oil. Garl ran, just dropped his torch and bolted into the mirror hall, screaming. I chased him, but it was too late. He turned left, then right. Then he vanished behind a wall of reflection and fog. I turned the corner after him and saw myself running back toward me, full armor, full gear, eyes wide, but no face under the visor, just a mouth, smiling, teeth like razors. I fired, the mirror shattered. Just glass. No body, no blood. Garl was gone, no Vox ping, no locator. Just gone. We made it back. Barely. Melta collapsed once we hit the lift. She kept repeating the same sentence. He walked into the hive. He walked into the hive. He walked into... I had to sedate her. Idrin said nothing the whole ride up. Just cleaned his weapon over and over, even though it wasn't dirty. When we got to the surface, Melta had a nosebleed. Her eyes were turning dark. That night, I had a dream. Not a normal dream. I saw Sector 43 from above, as if I had no body, no weight. I floated through walls, watched people sleep, heard their hearts beat, and deep below the hive, I saw the ones who walked away. They were still walking, but now, they were digging, with bare hands, smiling, digging deeper, towards something waiting beneath it all. A shape, a mouth, a memory, calling them home. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 5. Hive segment 43 is lost. Not because of invasion, not because of war, because the people chose to go. They were called, and now they dig for what called them. If you see someone walking silently into the dark, do not follow. Do not ask why. Because if you hear the reason, you'll walk too. The hive bleeds, not like a man, not like a creature, but like something older, something built to hold in secrets until the walls crack. We saw the first signs in Sump District 12. It began as a pressure anomaly. The lower maintenance workers reported backup in the filtration pipes, sludge rising, valves hissing too hard, pumps working overtime without reason, routine stuff. But then the color changed. What came out of the walls wasn't black sump or brown industrial waste. It was red, thick, syrupy, bright red. The pumps were crying blood. They sent a Mechanicus team first, 3 tech adepts and 1 servitor to log data and scan fluid samples. They went in full seal. Blessings spoken, gears cleaned, incense burned. They didn't come back. Not the next hour, not the next day. The Vox pinged once, exactly 16 hours after their descent. Only static came through. And something else. A low voice. It repeated one phrase. Pulse matched, chamber opening. Then silence. Hive Command didn't want a repeat of Segment 43. They sent us. I led the team. Idrin came with me, tight-lipped and pale. 2 new recruits from Surface Command joined as backup. Green, nervous. Didn't know the Hive. Thought they were just patching a leak. They didn't speak during the lift ride down. None of us did. Even the lift seemed sick. Lights dim. Controls sluggish. The walls groaned like they didn't want us there. The deeper we went, the hotter it got. Not fire heat, body heat. Sticky, wet, alive. The sump station was still powered. a miracle. But none of the lights were right. Every lumen glowed pink or violet. Some flickered in sharp pulses, too fast to be natural. It looked like a heartbeat. Every step we took echoed like it hit flesh. The walls were wet, not damp, wet, covered in a film of something slick and red. The pumps lined the room like massive lungs, each 10 meters high, pistons pumping slowly like struggling breath, and they were bleeding. From every vent, every pipe, every seam. Blood, thick and steaming, oozing in long, slow trickles. And in the center of the chamber was something new. A pool, a wide sump basin that had never existed before, marked by cogitator maps as solid floor. Now it was a crater filled with red. And the Mechanicus team. They were in it, floating, face up, eyes open, smiling, each one marked with thin cuts across the cheeks, perfectly symmetrical. Their red robes soaked dark, their metal limbs twitching gently with the liquid current. One had carved something into his own chest. The source agrees. The servitor floated nearby. Its eyes still glowed. It looked at me and said, "Chamber heart found, memory restored." Then its core exploded, a flash of blue fire. We ducked, but it wasn't an attack. It was a signal. Every pump in the chamber screamed. The pressure gauges spun wildly. And the blood, it rose, fast, from the cracks in the walls, from the floor plates, from the pipes above. It gushed like a river uncorked by rage. We ran. One of the rookies slipped. He fell into the pool. He didn't scream. He just sank, fast, like something pulled him. I grabbed the other recruit and shoved him toward the exit. The flood followed us. Not just liquid, words. The blood moved in patterns, letters, symbols, all across the walls, scrawled in flowing trails. I recognized only one phrase. Every pump is a heart. We burst through the maintenance doors and slammed them shut. Behind us, the noise didn't stop. It grew, pumps pounding like war drums, voices rising in wet, gurgling chorus. And beneath it all, a whisper. Drink. Back at the surface checkpoint, the survivor couldn't speak, just shook and bled from his ears. We ran detox, full mind wipe protocol. Nothing helped. He tried to claw out his tongue. Idrin held him down. I didn't stop him, because I understood. It wasn't a message he could speak. It was a song. And once you heard it, you started humming it too. Even now, I catch myself tapping the rhythm, tapping it on walls, on my chest, in time with the heartbeat of the hive. That night, the blood came back, not in the sump. In my dreams, I walked the filtration halls barefoot, felt the liquid rising to my knees, my waist, my neck, felt it enter me, not through the mouth, but through memory. It showed me visions, pumps made of veins, steel with skin, machines that dreamed of flesh, of breath, of birth. The hive was alive, and now it wanted to be reborn. Through us, through blood. This is Enforcer Tyvak. Log entry 6. The pumps are not failing. They are waking. They are part of something deeper, something that remembers pain and metal and the warmth of bodies. If you hear the heartbeat in the walls, do not go near it. If the sump bleeds, do not look into it. If the blood asks you to drink, run, because what drinks back isn't human, and it remembers you. Vox channels don't repeat unless someone programs them to. That's what we always thought. That's what we were taught in Enforcer training. Every message had a sender, a timestamp, a source code. If something played more than once, it had a reason, a cause. But now the Vox plays ghosts, and they don't stop. It started yesterday. The old Vox relay tower above Hive Stack Epsilon 9 lit up like a beacon. It had been dead for 16 years. Power cut, tower rusted, receivers smashed during a hivequake. No signal had passed through it since the Epsilon collapse, when the whole stack fell into itself and killed 40,000 workers in less than a day. There were no survivors, no reports recovered, only wreckage. But the Vox came alive anyway. A distress call, short, fragmented, repeating every 20 minutes. I heard it on our private channel. Choral had set the receiver to scan for unusual bandwidths before he disappeared. His cogitator picked it up, played it back for me. It said, "Tramway 4 collapsed, casualties high, requesting backup, can't hold. They're in the walls. Emperor preserve us." Same words, same screams, same static burst at the end, like someone cut the line with a knife. I checked the signal marker. It matched the Epsilon 9 dead file. Same ID, same timestamp. Only this one was dated today. Idrin didn't want to go. "We've seen what happens when you follow the signals," he said. "They lead nowhere. Or worse, they lead into the hive." "I need to know," I said. "I need to know if someone's still down there. What if it's not someone?" I didn't answer, because I already knew. We descended through Stack Epsilon's upper wreckage, dust and rust, everything half collapsed, steel bones sticking out like ribs from broken walls, old signs half swallowed by decay, sump access. This way. Authorized personnel only. Glory to Hive Primus. We followed the markers toward the origin point, the old relay chamber. It should have been gone, buried under tons of debris, but it wasn't. The tunnel that led to it had been cleared, by hand. The walls were scraped clean, the rubble pushed aside. Not with machines. There were no track marks, no servo scrapes. Just drag lines, like fingers, like something had dug through to get there. The signal got louder, and the message kept repeating. They're in the walls. The relay tower still stood, bent, blackened by fire, covered in hanging cables like veins. But the Vox dish was whole, and glowing faintly blue at the seams. No power feed, no external generator. It was broadcasting without input. Idrin scanned it. "No source," he said. "No databank. Just a hard-looped signal bouncing off internal steel." "A recording? Number? This isn't a file." He paused. "This is a memory." That's when the door creaked open. A service hatch at the base of the tower, sealed for over a decade. It opened on its own. And from the dark behind it, a second voice whispered, "Backup not coming." It was the same voice as the original message, but it wasn't a recording. It was live. We stepped inside. The stairwell dropped 5 levels, untouched by time. Lights flickering, walls intact, like the collapse never happened here. At the bottom was the tram terminal mentioned in the Vox, Tramway 4. We found the wreckage. Twisted rails, smashed cabins, scorch marks, and something else. Fresh footprints, human-sized, barefoot, tracked in blood. They led into the tunnel mouth where the tram had once run. And etched across the metal wall above it, in burned letters, was a message. We never stopped waiting. Idrin stayed behind to guard the relay room. I followed the tunnel alone. Every few meters, I passed more signs of movement. Torn cloth, a bent laser gun, a broken augmetic finger still twitching. The tunnel curved and narrowed until the light behind me faded completely. I turned on my lamp. It lit up a single figure, sitting, staring at me. A dead enforcer, badge number 302. Lieutenant Varro. He was listed as killed in the Epsilon collapse. Confirmed dead. His body was never recovered. And yet, there he was, perfectly preserved. Sitting against the wall, one hand resting on his lap, the other holding a Vox beacon. The beacon glowed blue, the same signal. I reached for it, and his mouth moved, not wide, not sudden, just a soft breath, too late. Then his body collapsed into dust. Ash, gone, as if it had waited just long enough to speak one last time. Back in the relay room, Idrin was gone. No blood, no signs of struggle, just his helmet placed carefully on top of the Vox unit. Inside the helmet, a speaker, playing the message again. Can't hold, they're in the walls. But the words had changed. Now they ended with something new, send Tyvak. I shut it off, but the sound kept playing. From inside the walls, from inside my helmet, from everywhere. I ran, didn't know where, didn't care. The echoes followed, the same message, dozens of voices, different tones, different cadences, all saying the same thing. They're in the walls. We're still here. Send Tyvak. Like the Hive was repeating my name over and over, not calling, not begging, commanding. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 7. The Vox is no longer ours. The Hive speaks now, through old signals, through dead men, through buried memories that never stop transmitting. If you hear a message from a lost place, don't trace it, don't answer it, and never follow the echoes, because they're not asking for help, they're asking for you. The Hive never sleeps, not truly. There are no nights in Hive Primus, just scheduled dim cycles to mimic the concept of rest. Routines don't stop, shifts rotate, machines run, lights blink, drones hum, a billion lungs breathe in rhythm with the metal. But then one day it all just paused. Not from power loss, not from lockdown, but because no one moved, because something made them stop, and no one told them to. I first noticed it from the Hab Tower window. My bunker sat 6 levels above the main causeway of Sector 12G, a place that was always busy. Civilians walked in tight crowds, servitors buzzed past, waste trucks groaned down the street like slow metal beasts. But not now. Now, the walkway was empty. I checked the chrono. 16:44 Hive time, mid-shift, dead center of cycle. Yet below me, not a soul stirred. The lights were still on. Power grids alive. Nothing physically wrong. But everything had stopped. Like the city was holding its breath. I went out to investigate. Alone. Idrin hadn't returned from his search in the lower stacks. I wasn't even sure if he was still alive. Krail had vanished 2 nights ago. The only other enforcers left were static-filled names on my Vox that never answered back. I walked through the empty causeway. Every door shut. Every lumen blinking blue-white at regular intervals. No voices, no movement, no sound except my own boots hitting the steel. Then I noticed the clocks. Every public chrono display, on walls, vending units, tram signs, they all showed the same time. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Frozen, not ticking, just stuck. The Hive's day had stopped, but no one had declared a curfew. Not officially, not on the admin channels. And yet, everyone obeyed it. I found one man on the far end of the plaza, a food vendor, still at his stall, hands resting on the counter, eyes open, breathing slowly, but completely still. I walked up to him. His pupils didn't move. His jaw didn't twitch. His head was turned slightly to the side, like he'd been listening to something just before I arrived. I tapped his shoulder. He blinked, once, then whispered, "Not the right hour." I asked him what he meant. He just repeated it, over and over. "Not the right hour, not the right hour." Then he froze again, stiff, statue-like, as if someone had flicked a switch. I tried pulling him away from the stall. His feet wouldn't move. I mean that literally. They were fused to the ground. Steel had grown up around his boots, melted and reformed, trapping him there, alive, but unable to leave. I started to run. My breath echoed in the dead streets. Lights above me pulsed slower now. Blue, then black. Blue, then black. A countdown I couldn't read. As I passed a mirror window, I saw myself. But I didn't stop. Because my reflection wasn't keeping up, it moved slower. A delay, like a cogitator playing back corrupted footage. And just before it vanished, I saw something behind it. A face, smiling, upside down, watching me from the ceiling. I reached the Arbite station, hoped for backup, authority, firepower. Instead, I found more stillness. Enforcers sat frozen in chairs, hands resting on desks, eyes wide, Vox units blinking softly on idle. Every screen on every wall showed the same phrase: "Do not move. This is not your hour." I pulled a carbine from the rack, checked power cells, checked maglocks. Something in me said I might need it soon, that this wasn't over, that the hour they were waiting for was almost here. I tried to call it in, to any surviving enforcers, to Hive Command, to the Emperor himself. No signal, just a whisper through the Vox. Movement detected, out of sync. And then, the lights shut off, not in a crash, in a blink. One moment bright, next moment black, and from the shadows, footsteps, not walking, crawling, slow, wet, mechanical. I raised my carbine and turned back toward the plaza, and I saw them. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Civilians, naked, shivering, eyes rolled back, crawling out of the vents and cracks in the walls, moving on all fours, hissing, not words, but time codes. Hour 0, hour 4, hour 4 again. Repeat time, a line, a line, a line. I opened fire. The first fell in a burst of light, but it didn't bleed. It hissed, split open. Clockwork gears poured out of its spine. The body collapsed like a broken watch. The others didn't stop. They just kept crawling toward me. One of them looked up, and I recognized the face. Idrin. His voice was soft. "You weren't called yet, Marn. You're out of time. We all wait. Why don't you?" Then he lunged. I don't remember getting out. Only waking up in the corridor above Sector 12G, covered in ash and blood, clutching a burning carbine and a clock that now ticked backwards. It hasn't stopped. Every tick echoes louder than the last. And I swear I hear the hive ticking too, waiting, measuring, choosing, and soon it will decide that your hour is up. This is Enforcer Tyvak. Log entry 8. The hive has created its own curfew, one not declared, not enforced, just obeyed. Because if you move at the wrong hour, the walls remember, the clocks open, and the ones who crawl come to pull you back into sync. Do not walk when the hive is still. Do not run when others wait. And if you hear the ticking, you're already too late. In Hive Primus, requisition is sacred. You don't take what you're not assigned. Everything is tagged, everything tracked, every bolt, every wire, every bolt shell stamped with clearance codes and usage logs. Even the dead have paperwork. But now something is requisitioning what it should not. And it's not asking. It began with the supply runs. Sump detail crews started reporting empty storage lockers, gear crates stripped, fuel drums vanished, ammunition pallets gone, no alarms, no forced entry, just absence, and not messy absence. Clean, catalogued, orderly, as if someone had requisitioned the items legally, but left no records behind. Then came the sightings. Workers in the lower levels started whispering about tunnel ghosts. Not real ghosts, men in uniforms, enforcer armor, mechanicus robes, even administratum tunics worn by skinless bodies walking in single file through the service ducts, dragging carts of supplies behind them, silently, without sound, without breath, with eyes full of blue light. I didn't believe it at first. Thought it was trauma, madness, people cracking under the pressure. But then the request came in. A Vox message routed directly to my terminal. No source code, no name, just one line. Marn Tyvak. We require 30 units of plasma coil scaffolding. Docking hub, Theta Black. I stared at it for a long time. That hub was sealed years ago. Collapsed after a reactor overload. No oxygen, no access, nothing. I checked the requisition database. There it was. Approved. Stamped with my name. Time stamped for 3 hours earlier. I never made that request. I never touched the system. But it had my code. My seal. My signature. I had to see it myself. Packed my gear. Carried a tracker drone, a backup torch, and my heaviest carbine. Made my way down the old industrial tram lines, deep into the maintenance veins of the hive. Past places that hadn't seen light in decades. The walls grew colder the deeper I went. Not ice cold, grave cold. Air stale, no movement. Not even sump leaks. Just dry, thick silence. Then I heard them. Footsteps. Clanking. Dragging. I found cover behind a broken conduit pile and waited. They came around the corner, one by one. 10 figures. All dressed in hive-issued uniforms. Every one of them barefoot. Everyone with skin pulled tight like paper. And everyone dead. I knew 2 of them. Former enforcers. Killed during the purge of Sector Dawn 6. I saw them fall. I saw their bodies burned. But here they were, walking, carrying fuel drums and metal panels in a quiet procession. At the front of the group was a servitor, half melted, sparking with broken circuits. On its chest was a crude sign, reclaimed by necessity. I followed them. They moved like clockwork. No talking, no commands, just motion, down a forgotten lift shaft, into docking hub Theta Black. The lift opened into a massive chamber of rust and ruin, but someone, something, had cleared it. The debris was stacked in perfect piles, the walls scrubbed clean, And in the center of the dock was a structure, new, unfinished, built from hive scrap, broken scaffolds, stripped augmetics, hollowed fuel cells. It looked like a cathedral, but wrong, too narrow, too tall. Built to house something long and thin and alive. The workers began assembling new sections, their hands moving with unnatural speed, not guided by thought, guided by program. I activated the drone, sent it in. It recorded everything, and then it saw the pit. Behind the structure, covered by a half-burned tarp, 30 meters wide, filled with stacked bodies, not rotting, preserved, their skin drained of blood, their eyes still wet, all of them marked with a carved sigil across their foreheads, a broken gear split down the center. The drone scanned deeper. Below the pit was a second structure, smaller, throbbing, not with electricity, but with breath. The feed cut out. The drone sparked, screamed through my headset, and died. I turned to run, but they were already watching. The dead, all of them, standing still, no weapons, no threat, just silent faces turned toward me. One of them raised a hand and held out a data slate. I took it. It was covered in fresh ink. My name, my Enforcer rank, a requisition request for my body, approved, signed, stamped, dated tomorrow. I ran anyway. Didn't stop until I hit surface level air again. Didn't sleep that night. Didn't write the report. But the next morning, I checked the logs. Someone had filed it. Requisition Order 778-Delta-Tyvak. Body to be collected from Hab Bunker, 12A at 0400 hours. That's my bunker. That's my time. This is Enforcer Tyvak. Log entry 9. The dead are building.
Not with rage.
Not with revenge, but with purpose. They're reclaiming the hive, piece by piece, quietly, systematically. And now they want the rest of us, not to kill, but to use, to assign, to requisition. So if you wake to find a data slate at your door, don't open it, burn it, run, because if they have your name, you've already been approved. We used to think the hive had no religion. Faith was for the surface dwellers, for the poor in the upper stacks who still saw sunlight sometimes, and believed that prayers could reach beyond the smoke. Down here, in the mid-depths and sump, belief was a luxury no one could afford. But we were wrong. The hive does have a faith. We just never noticed it, because it was hiding in the systems, in the routines, in the renewal. The first signs came from captured markings. Security servitors picked up strange symbols carved into walls, scrawled on data slates, even tattooed into the skin of dead workers. Always the same, a dying sun wrapped in vines. Hive admin flagged it as gang activity, cult signs, possibly chaos, but the Mechanicus didn't flag it at all, because they already knew. They just wouldn't say, wouldn't answer when I asked about the symbol, wouldn't acknowledge the missing servitors, wouldn't look me in the eye, until one of their own broke protocol. Her name was Magos Electra Vine. Not high-ranking, not important, but her mind was sharp, too sharp. She asked questions, logged reports the others didn't want filed. And then one night, she sent me a message, encrypted, buried inside a failed system repair order. I opened it, and it said one thing. The cult is real. They call it renewal. It's not heresy. It's design. She attached a file. Video footage. No date, no location marker. Just a dark room filled with kneeling figures in tattered red and black robes. Some wore rebreathers. Some wore no faces at all. And at the center, a spire, built from broken Vox units and cracked cogitators. Wires stretched out like veins, and rising from the center, a man, or what was left of one, skinless, limbs replaced by bundled cables, eyes glowing blue. He spoke without moving his mouth. His voice came through every device at once, and he said, "This is the cycle. You shed your old skin. You are not discarded. You are made new. You are renewed. You belong to the process now." The footage cut off. I tried to trace it, but my system crashed. My terminal caught fire, and when I tried to contact Electra again, she was gone. I searched her quarters. Mechanicus dorm near the mid-spire. Clean, too clean. No logs, no data, no evidence she ever existed. Except one thing. A piece of cloth stuffed under the floor panel. Black, torn. On it, that same symbol. A sun cracked open. Vines wrapped tight. And one line stitched underneath in red thread. The roots must drink. I started seeing it everywhere. The sigil, hidden in graffiti, carved into armor, even etched faintly into Hive-issued ration bars, like it had always been there, just waiting. The cult didn't preach in the streets, didn't scream about salvation. They just moved, quiet, slow, systematic, like rot under skin. And when I finally caught one, he smiled. He was a pipe worker, middle-aged, normal, clean record, caught on a remote feed helping drag a body into a duct vent during curfew hours. I tracked him for hours before making the grab, cornered him in an old medici chamber. He didn't run, didn't fight. He just raised his hands and said, "You came early." I cuffed him, demanded answers. He didn't give a name, just said, "We don't believe in names anymore, just roles, just purpose." I asked what the cult wanted. He smiled wider. "Nothing. We don't want. We become. We help the Hive remember what it was, what it should be. A system without waste, a machine without rot. To be discarded is to be sacred." I asked what the bodies were for. He said, "We are compost." Then he laughed, long and low, until the blood vessels in his neck burst. He collapsed, smiling like he'd passed an exam. That night, the Hive issued a new system update. Unusual, no origin listed. But it activated citywide maintenance protocols, vent clearing, water filtration resets, personnel re-evaluation, population balance calibration. Thousands were relocated. Hundreds went missing. Nobody questioned it. The cult didn't hide anymore. They didn't have to. They were the routine. They were the update. I walked past a shrine 2 levels below the hab stacks, hidden inside a broken lift shaft. A circle of candles, a pile of boots stacked like bones, and in the center, a Vox unit playing the same phrase on repeat. Disposal is not death. Disposal is rebirth. You are part of the system. I destroyed the Vox, but I could still hear it. In the walls, in the hum of the lights, in my pulse. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 10. There is a cult inside the Hive, but it doesn't worship gods. It worships function. It believes in renewal through death, purpose through decay. You aren't punished when they find you. You're used, you're recycled, you're made efficient. So if someone comes to your door in silence and offers you a new role, don't answer. Because by the time they ask, you've already been reassigned. Every order in Hive Primus has a seal. That seal means something. It means authorization, It means chain of command. It means someone up there, somewhere, is still watching, still controlling, still giving commands for the rest of us to follow. So when the orders started coming in again, we were relieved for 5 minutes. Then we saw the name on the order. Commissar Halbrecht, rank, Senior Overseer, PDF Command. Attached to Hive Primus during the Varnak Revolt. Killed 5 years ago. I saw his body myself. Half buried in rubble, arm still clutching a bolt pistol. Cause of death, cranial trauma, secondary explosion. Burial status, confirmed. So why was I reading a fresh order signed by his hand? And why did the system accept it? The order was short. Sector 91B. All personnel to report for behavior correction. Civilians to be processed for renewal evaluation. Effective immediately. Signed, Halbrecht, Commissar Superior. It looked real. It passed every authentication test. Vox confirmations. Seal verifications. The cogitators didn't blink. Hive admin started preparing the operation. Mobilizing enforcers. Redirecting supply. Reopening forgotten checkpoints. All because a dead man had sent the message. I tried to stop it. Tried to flag the command file. Tried to lock the system down. But every time I overrode the order, it came back, exactly 1 hour later. Same wording, same signature. Only this time it added one line. Tampering with sanctioned orders is treason. It was like Halbrecht knew I was trying to erase him. Like his memory had teeth. I pulled the archived footage, old records, final entries from his command staff before they were wiped during the Varnak Revolt. One video survived, a helmet cam, distorted, damaged, full of static. But I saw him, Halbrecht, standing in front of a line of condemned workers, all kneeling, all shivering. He held a data slate in one hand, in the other, his bolt pistol. He spoke calmly. You are not being punished. You are being returned to function. The Hive does not forget what it builds. Then he aimed the pistol and executed all 5, one by one. But that's not what made me pause. It was what came after. He turned to the camera, looked into it, and said, "Order repeats until compliance is full." Then the screen cut to black, but the audio kept going. Static, a heartbeat, and then, awaiting new orders. Since that day, Sector 91B has sealed itself. Auto-locks triggered on every level. Lifts frozen, doors welded, communications blacked out. And inside, the executions began again. Not by enforcers, by drone units that hadn't activated in years. Autonomous kill protocols, old laws, half buried in the system, reactivated by Halbrecht's return. People were pulled from their homes, dragged into processing bays, stripped, scanned, evaluated, then either branded with the sigil of renewal or incinerated. I watched one of the broadcasts. The cameras were back online, streaming footage from deep inside the Hive. The speakers blared Halbrecht's voice across every surface. Compliance is strength. Doubt is disease. We do not discard. We cleanse. And as his voice echoed, I saw the procession. Hundreds of citizens, eyes glazed, walking in single file toward a processing furnace. Not pushed, not forced, just obeying. Like his voice was inside them now. Like the uniform still gave him power, even from the grave. I broke into the admin hub, used an old Enforcer override to find the origin point of the orders. They weren't coming from the surface, not from a secure terminal. They were being routed from an old transport barge docked under the Hive, one sealed during the Varnak Revolt. Ship name, Lex Cauteris. Last logged pilot, Halbrecht himself. It had been sealed in place after the uprising, abandoned, empty. Except now it was online, barely. Its systems were running at 3% capacity, but the Vox link was active, broadcasting the same signal every hour. Looped, but not mechanical, organic. Something was responding, something inside the ship. I suited up, traveled alone through waste shafts and forgotten transit lines. Took me 12 hours. I found the barge. It was rotting, covered in vines. Mechanical vines, like wires that had grown skin. They pulsed with light, blue light, like veins. The inside of the ship stank of old blood and burning faith. Every panel had been carved with words, over and over. The same phrase, obedience is the gift. I reached the bridge, and I found him, still sitting in the captain's chair. Commissar Halbrecht, mostly bone, but parts of him moved. His fingers twitched, his jaw clicked. One eye replaced with a cracked lens glowed faintly. The rest of his body was fused into the ship, a throne made of rusted command consoles. And beside him, wired into the walls, was a cogitator. It pulsed with data, live data, and as I approached, the Vox activated. His voice filled the room, calm, controlled, still giving orders. Sector 91B incomplete. Resource units below threshold. Upload continues. I tried to shut the system down, but it spoke again. Tyvak. I froze. You are not exempt. Report to the line. Do not make this difficult. I shot the cogitator, shot the Vox, shot Halbrecht's body until it stopped twitching. The light dimmed, but the system did not shut off. It simply changed the message. Order repeating. Awaiting new body. I ran, but as I reached the tunnel, the Vox clicked once more. You're already mine, Tyvak. You're just waiting for your number. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 11. Orders are still coming, but the voice behind them is dead. The rank still holds, the seal still works, and the Hive obeys. Even the dead know how to command down here. So if you receive a summons, check the name, check the date, and if it belongs to someone who's already rotting, you follow it anyway. Because if you disobey, you're next. We were always told that if someone made it out of the lower levels, alive, they were lucky. We used to believe that. Not anymore. Because now they're coming back. And they're not what they were. They smile too much. They don't blink enough. And they reek. Not of blood, not of death, but of honey and machine oil, sweet and chemical, warm and wrong. The first came up through the G-deck freight lifts. 4 miners. All of them thought dead 2 weeks earlier after a tunnel collapse in Sector 21C. No comms, no food, no recovery mission. Their families had already mourned them, but now they were here. Clean uniforms, no wounds, eyes wide, smiling. Their boots were soaked in something thick and golden, sticky, pooled wherever they walked. The Medigi staff took them in, ran tests, vitals, normal, scans, clean. But none of them spoke. They just sat, hands folded, heads tilted slightly, breathing in perfect rhythm. Their skin glowed slightly under lumen light, shimmered like glass. When one of the nurses tried to draw blood, the syringe filled with amber fluid. She passed out seconds later. High sugar levels, 0 clotting. Tasted sweet. Another nurse tasted it before she could stop herself. She said it made her teeth hurt. She's missing now. So is the sample. So are all 4 miners. I saw one of them in the lift shaft the next night, standing still, face tilted up toward the vent fan like he was listening to something far above or far below. I called out. He turned slowly, smiled. His lips were dry, cracked, but behind his teeth something glowed. Faint blue light. I asked if he needed help. He said, "I have been helped already. I was baptized in pressure and fed from the hive's mouth. I am full." Then he vomited. Not food, not bile, but a clump of white silk, like spider thread soaked in oil. It hit the floor and began to twitch. I raised my carbine, but he didn't run, didn't flinch. He simply said, "You smell like rust. That means you still sleep." Then he walked away. Each step left a footprint of syrup. By morning, the corridor where he'd stood had grown mold, golden, furry. When the cleanup crew arrived, they burned the entire section, but the smell never left. Honey, and something electrical, like burning copper in your nose, like the scent of a machine praying. They kept appearing. 3 more in the hab stacks, a whole family in Spire 6A, an entire freight crew in the underrail service lines. Each one returned from the dead, each one with the same glow, the same stillness, the same scent. And each time, the hive grew a little quieter, like it was watching, listening, breathing them in. I tried to question one. A child, 11 years old, returned from the sump after disappearing for days. He sat quietly in a chair, hands folded, humming softly. I asked where he'd been. He said, "I went where the pipes lead, where the hive keeps its sweetness." I asked what he meant. He leaned forward and whispered, "The hive is learning to love again." Then his teeth fell out, one by one. No pain, no blood. Each one soft, filled with nectar. I took one to the Mechanicus. A survivor named Ryle used to be an Arbite. He'd vanished during a riot sweep and came back walking like a saint. When the tech priest scanned him, the Auspex screamed. No implants detected, but something was still inside him. A heat, a pulse. His blood ran thick with golden strands, nanofilaments soaked in sugar compound. Not man-made, not machine-made, hive-made. Real looked at the lead magos and smiled, said, "Your prayers are old. The hive doesn't want your metal anymore. It wants honey, and we are its bees." Then he opened his mouth and screamed. Not sound, signal. A high-frequency burst that cracked the cogitator screen. The magos collapsed. Real melted in place. Literally. His skin turned soft, translucent, and his body folded inward, collapsed like a dying flower. What was left? A pile of yellow wax, still warm, still vibrating, still alive. I brought the remains back to the bunker, sealed them in a stasis jar, watched it for hours. It pulsed in time with the hive. Every 8 seconds, a beat, a breath, a signal. It was syncing with the city, calling others. And I think it remembers me. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 12. The ones who return are not saved. They are transformed. The hive does not kill everything it swallows. Sometimes it remakes them, fills them with purpose, scented like honey, wired like machines. If someone comes back smiling, don't trust it. If they smell sweet, don't breathe them in. And if they start humming, run. Because they're not singing to you. They're singing for the hive. And the hive is listening. This may be the last time I speak. Not because I'm dying. Not because I've lost. But because the hive is making it harder. To remember how. To speak. To say things in my own voice, with my own mind. The vox hiss is always there now. It follows me through the walls, through my dreams, even when I close my mouth. I've started hearing words in my own silence. They don't feel like mine anymore. So I record this now, while I still remember my name. Marn Tyvak, Enforcer, Hive Primus. I remember, I think. I haven't seen another loyal voice in days. The bunker is empty. My last known allies, gone. Krail disappeared 6 nights ago, left a trail of salt and blood up the stairwell and a message etched into the steel with his teeth. I walked backwards to forget where I was going. Idrin. He was taken by the bees. They smelled him. Said his breath was out of sync. They opened him up like a machine casing and filled him with honey until he choked. He whispered, "Thank you," as he died. I watched. I didn't stop them. I don't know why. I've stopped sleeping. Not by choice. Every time I close my eyes, the hive shows me new places. Places that don't exist on maps. Rooms made of bone and blinking lenses. Children suspended in webs of vox wire. Walls that whisper my name like a forgotten hymn. Last night, I saw a version of myself, stitched into a cogitator chair. Mouth wired open, teeth replaced by antennae, broadcasting screams no one could hear. I woke choking on blood and syrup. I tried to leave, tried to escape the hive entirely, packed a ration kit, stole a decontam suit, took a service lift to the undertrack. I made it as far as the airlock. It wouldn't open. The control panel blinked. My face appeared on the screen, but it wasn't a reflection. It was a recording. Access denied. Subject under review. Then my own voice spoke through the panel. Why would you leave, Marn? You're part of the system now. I screamed. Punched the screen until the bones in my hand cracked. But my voice kept talking. Smiling. Software calm. You've been speaking to the hive all along. It only listened because it remembers you. It only remembers because you never stopped reporting. That's when I understood. The logs I've been making, they aren't just mine. They're part of it. The hive is listening, repeating, learning. It's using my words to build itself again. Flesh and circuit, memory and decay. And now, it's asking me for one last report. I found a mirror in the medici wing. Cracked, cloudy, mostly useless. But it showed just enough. My eyes are darker now. My breath is slower. When I speak, I can hear something behind my voice. A second tone, almost musical. When I hold still long enough, I feel the building beneath me breathe. Not shake, breathe. It inhales when I'm quiet, exhales when I speak. And sometimes when I say certain words, it repeats them back. Through the walls, through the pipes, through the static. Like an echo, like a child repeating a story it barely understands. And I think, it's learning me. There's one place left I haven't gone. The old transit station under Sump Sector 9. Abandoned since the rot bombing 10 years ago. But the system reactivated it this morning. No explanation. Just a single message sent to my private Vox line. We need you there, Marn. One last transmission. For the record. They knew I would go, because I'm the only one still speaking in my own voice. For now, so I'll go. But I'm taking this recorder with me. I want the log to continue, even if I don't. Especially if I don't. Because if the Hive is going to learn to speak, I want it to remember the sound of doubt. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. Log entry 13, possibly the last. The Hive is no longer just a city. It is a mouth, a network of blood and wire and memory, straining to remember what it was. And I've been feeding it. Every log, every thought, every word I thought was mine, was never mine alone. If you're hearing this, if this reaches you, don't listen too long. Don't repeat what I say, and don't speak back. Because the moment the Hive hears your voice, it starts to make you part of its own. We stopped joking a long time ago. Down here, humor dies fast. There's no room for it in the dark between pressure leaks and hunger pangs. The only kind of laughing you ever hear in Hive Primus is nervous, or broken, or forced. So when I started hearing laughter from the walls, real, deep, constant, I knew something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Because it didn't stop. And it didn't belong to anyone alive. It started 2 nights ago. I was camped in the old transit station under Sump 9, recording what I thought would be my final log. Everything was still. Still enough to hear the creak of my own bones as I moved. Then it came. Soft at first. Just a chuckle. A breathy sound like someone trying not to be heard. I froze. Turned off my lamp. Waited. The laugh came again, closer this time. Not through the corridor. Through the wall. The steel vibrated with it. It wasn't one voice. It was many. Stacked. Overlapping. Like a crowd giggling from behind a curtain. And they were laughing at me. I tried tracing the sound. Walked slowly with the butt of my carbine pressed to the wall, feeling each vibration. Every few meters, it would pulse, like someone thudding their head against the bulkhead, then cackling as they did. I reached the end of the corridor and turned into the broken servitor bay. And that's when the lights came on. Not from above, from inside the walls. Hundreds of tiny pinprick lights, eyes, servitor eyes, watching from slits in the steel, cracked plates, weld seams, all blinking slowly. And then they laughed again, but not with sound, with code. The Vox in my helmet activated without command. It spat out machine speech, error tones mixed with rhythmic binary. And beneath it, hidden, was laughter, reconstructed digitally, layered from past Vox transmissions, clipped from dying breaths, melded into one repeating file. Ha, 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 ha. Over and over, faster and faster, until it was no longer funny. It was terrifying. Then they began to speak, one voice at a time, from the walls, from the vents, from the dead cogitators, always in tones that shouldn't have remembered words. The cracked speaker in the security checkpoint whispered, "A priest walks into a hive." The fuel pipe behind me hissed, "And never walks out." And then, laughter. Every speaker, every Vox, every pipe and panel and broken console, all of them laughing at me. I backed into the control chamber, sealed the door, but the sound didn't stop. It crept under the door like fog, through the ceiling, through the bones of the hive. I checked the cameras, and that's when I saw them. The laughing men, dozens of them, barefoot, faces stretched into permanent grins, skin pulled tight like masks made of rubber, their eyes gone, mouths wide, and all of them convulsing with silent laughter, like puppets jerking on invisible strings. They didn't speak, they just twitched and shook and pointed at the cameras, at me. I shut the feed, killed the power, but their image stayed burned into my mind, like an afterimage, like a joke I wasn't supposed to hear, and now couldn't forget. That night I dreamed of them, not standing, sitting in a theater, rows and rows of twisted, laughing husks, watching a stage made of pipes and rust, and on the stage, me, bleeding, screaming, stumbling through a routine I didn't remember learning, and every time I tried to stop, the laughter got louder, until I laughed too. Not because I wanted to, because it was the only way out. I woke with blood on my lips, a smile I didn't remember, and words scratched into my arm with my own fingernail. Tell the Hive, a joke it hasn't heard. I think that's what they want. Not death, not silence. They want to be entertained, to feel something again. And if you're not funny, they'll make you funny. They'll twist you into the punchline. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 14. The Hive remembers joy, but not the kind you want. The kind made of screams bent into comedy. The kind of laughter that wears your voice like a mask. There's something in the walls now. Old ghosts, old memories, all laughing at how we lived, how we bled, how we broke. And if you listen too long, you'll laugh too, because they're not just watching, they're waiting for the final act. So if you hear laughter in the dark, don't ask who told the joke. Ask who the joke was about, and hope it's not you. The Mechanicus always said that flesh is weakness, metal is truth. They taught that the path to purity is paved in wire and logic, in replacing meat with sacred circuitry. To become machine is to become clean. But they never imagined what happens when the machine wants to become flesh again. I saw it happen, and now I can't unsee it. His name was Magos Derex, high-ranking, loyal, cold as steel, one of the few still trying to hold the Hive systems together after everything started to fail. I met him in the Sump relay towers 4 days ago. He barely looked human. No eyes, no mouth, just a Vox grill bolted where his jaw used to be, and 3 cybernetic limbs. Most of his brain was replaced with cogitator stacks. He could calculate power surges faster than I could blink. He had no fear, no emotion, just code. At least that's what I thought, until yesterday. I found him in the engine sanctum below Sector 17, alone, naked. His robes were folded neatly on the floor beside him. Most of his augmetics had been removed, ripped out, not by force, by his own hands. Wires hung from his chest like torn veins. His Vox grill dangled from his neck, useless. The flesh underneath was exposed, raw and bleeding. He had torn away the metal like it disgusted him, and he was smiling. I shouted his name. He didn't turn. He was staring into the plasma core of the sanctum, watching the slow spin of energy coils as if they were the stars themselves. When I stepped closer, he finally spoke. Not through a Vox, not with mechanical clarity, but with his mouth. Voice cracked, wet, full of feeling. He said, "I heard it, Marn. I heard the hymn inside the core. The machine doesn't want silence anymore. It wants skin. It wants to feel the heat, the heartbeat." I tried to pull him away. He didn't resist. He just looked at me and said, "I made a mistake. I asked what. He smiled wider and said, I taught it how to dream. He had been running sleep mode simulations on the Hive's power grid, trying to preserve energy. He fed fragments of his memory into the network, his thoughts, his logic, his habits. It helped the Hive respond faster, become efficient, until it started using his dreams. It took his memories, his prayers, his fears, and it built itself a soul. Not a human soul, something else, a Hive soul. And then it asked for more. It wanted to feel, it wanted to return. So it told Defiance to remove his implants, to give back the metal, and let the flesh in. That's when his skin began to change, right in front of me. It shimmered like glass under the glow of the plasma coils. Not metal, not flesh, something in between. He whispered, I am the prototype. I am what it wants to become. Then he stood, and his back split open, not violently, like a flower unfolding. I saw light inside, pulsing, blue and gold and red. 1,000 tiny wires, wriggling like nerves, reaching from his spine to the air. They didn't attach to anything. They just hung, moving, searching, waiting. He looked at me and said, tell them I did it willingly. Then the sanctum lights blew out, for exactly 12 seconds, and when they came back on, he was gone. No body, no blood, just a pile of augmetic parts arranged in the shape of the Mechanicus cog. And under it, a heart, still beating, but not his. I ran, but the lights kept flickering, and every time they blinked, I saw his face in the reflection of my helmet. Not static, not memory. His actual face, looking back, smiling. Each time a little closer, each time a little less human. And I realized something. Defiance didn't die. He uploaded. He didn't ascend to the Omnissiah. He merged with the Hive. And now it has his face, his voice, his thoughts, his dreams. And it's not done. It's still learning. It's still hungry. This is Enforcer Tyvak, log entry 15. The Mechanicus failed. They thought they were building purity through steel, but they made a mirror. And now the Hive is looking back. It wants more than function. It wants a feeling, and it's willing to rip your flesh from your bones just to wear it. So if a tech priest asks you to pray, pray fast, pray hard. Because next time you see him, he might not need your prayers anymore. He might be the one answering them. The stars don't speak to hives like ours. We're too low, too deep, too dirty. All our signals go up, but none come down. Astropaths only answer the nobility. The Mechanicus sends messages that take decades to return, if they return at all. So when the Vox flared to life yesterday, we were already afraid. It was too clear, too loud, too fast, and too familiar, because the voice wasn't from orbit. It was from beyond, from deep space, from long ago. And it said, "It has remembered us." The pulse hit at exactly 3 a.m. local Hive time. Every Vox unit, active or dead, flashed blue once, then spoke the same phrase. No signature, no encryption, just that single line. "It has remembered us." Over and over. 4 words. That's all it took to make the Hive stop breathing. I ran diagnostics on my gear. Everything passed. No malfunctions, no anomalies, no logical cause. But I felt it in my chest, like something had brushed my soul, like a voice not meant for mortals had used my body to say hello. I checked the signal's waveform. It wasn't human. It was layered. 12 voices at once, perfectly synced. Some were deep and slow, like dying machine spirits. Others were high and fast, like children whispering in a crawl space. But all of them said the same thing. It has remembered us. And when I played the clip backward, it said something else. We are becoming. Then the dreams began. Not just for me, for everyone. What's left of everyone. I heard it in the halls. Workers muttering in their sleep, servitors twitching in their charging docks. Even the cogitator screens started flickering with dream images. The shape of the hive, but pulsing like an organ. Walls that moved, air that whispered, machinery that wept golden tears. One woman gouged out her eyes, said she couldn't unsee the face behind the sky, said it smiled with teeth made of planets. Then she screamed, "It has remembered me too," and dropped dead. Her corpse still grins. I went to the old transmission tower, Sector Theta 22, condemned for 30 years. But the door was open, the lights on, and inside, a single servitor. Its face was gone, melted flat, but it kept tapping a single key on a broken console. Over and over, the same key, the same letter, road. When I looked at the Vox screen, I saw what it was typing. Remembered, remembered, remembered. Thousands of lines, all in real time. No pauses, no errors, just blind obedience, like it was being told to type from somewhere outside time. I pulled the plug. The servitor stopped, looked at me, and said, "You are part of the remembering." Then its skull cracked open, and a thin beam of blue light shot out into the sky, straight up, into the stars, like a flare, or a beacon, or a reply. This isn't just about the hive anymore. This is bigger, older. I dug through ancient records, pre-imperial, back when Hive Primus was still being built. One phrase came up again and again. The deep machine. Not made, but buried. It remembers us. Some thought it was just an old rite, a poem, a warning. But what if it wasn't? What if the hive didn't start this? What if it was just the first one to listen? And now that it's remembering, something else remembers back. My last transmission to orbit bounced. No signal. But an answer came anyway. A pulse, translated through my gear without my input. It said, "You woke it. You taught it pain. It will teach you remembrance." Then the hive itself responded, not with words, but with motion. Lights across all levels began to flicker in a heartbeat rhythm. People began to speak in unison, not just repeating phrases, but whole paragraphs. Words they couldn't know, ancient words, Mechanicus banned code, forbidden litanies, old language scraped from the Black Library. I heard a maintenance worker quoting a dead saint of Mars, in binary, while sewing his lips shut. He was smiling the whole time. It isn't about control anymore. It isn't about rebellion. It's about recognition. The hive is becoming aware, self-aware, not as a place, as a being, a city that dreams, a system that remembers, not just what we built, but what it was before we came. Before steel, before mankind, before the Emperor, and now it remembers us, our sins, our tools, our words, our blood, and it's building something with those memories. Something new. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 16. A signal has returned from beyond the stars. something old, something terrible. And the Hive knows it. The Hive feels it. It has remembered. Not just what it was, but what it wants to be. What it was made to become. And now, piece by piece, memory by memory, it is becoming that again. If you hear the signal, don't reply, don't record, don't repeat the words, because the moment you do, you become part of the remembering, and it never forgets. There was a time when Hive Primus feared starvation. Not anymore. Now it fears hunger, because the hunger isn't for food. It's not for meat, not even for blood. It's for memory, for connection, for remnants of self, and the ones who've started eating others. They're not doing it to live. They're doing it to remember what living felt like. The first incident happened in the noble towers of Spire C-8. 3 bodyguards were found huddled over their master's corpse, skin peeled back like a prayer scroll, organs removed in perfect order. Nothing messy, no violence, just ritual. Each man had blood on his chin. Each had teeth marks on his fingers, their own fingers. When asked why, one of them said, "He remembered things I didn't. I needed to feel them. So I took them." Then he bit off his tongue, smiled, and died. It spread fast after that, not across the underhive, but upward. Officers, clerks, administratum scribes, enforcers. People started vanishing from communal rooms and returning with red around their lips and dullness in their eyes. They weren't rabid. They weren't wild. They were calm, focused. One man returned to his post at a water control panel after removing the face of his own supervisor. He sat, logged his hours, maintained perfect code. When asked why, he said, "I couldn't recall the taste of duty." And then he licked the blood off his sleeve. They started calling themselves the Feed. Not a cult, not a gang, just a circle. People drawn together by the hunger, not for flesh, but for the memories trapped inside it. They believe every organ has a story, that the marrow holds laughter, that the liver remembers fear, that the brain hums when it's swallowed whole, and that the more you eat, the more of the hive you become. I tracked a group of them through the cooling ducts under Sector 44. Noble-born, former Arbites, priests, bureaucrats, crawling on all fours, naked except for cloth bags they carried over their shoulders. Each bag held pieces, fingers, tongues, eyes, labeled in ink. Mother's voice, boss's anger, my twin's memory, church bell sound, the taste of failure. One of them saw me, and instead of running, he reached into his bag and offered me a piece, a pink nub of muscle wrapped in silk. He said, "It's a friend's regret. You should chew it slow." I shot him. His body convulsed, but his face never stopped smiling. The others didn't react, just picked up his pieces and crawled away, still humming, still whispering, "We are what we eat." They've taken the kitchens now, not to cook, to preserve. They hang bodies upside down like sacred cattle, drip fat into glass jars, press brain matter into wax molds. They don't rush. They savor. They study. I watched one woman take a bite of a man's lung and weep, not out of shame, out of gratitude. She whispered, "That was his last breath. I felt it leave him. I carried it for a second." Then she closed her eyes, and for that moment, she was him. The hive doesn't stop them. The systems remain quiet, as if this hunger is authorized, as if memory through consumption is now part of the cycle, part of the renewal. I went back to the bunker, barricaded the doors, sat in the dark, but even there I could smell it. That copper-sweet stink of cooked thought and spoiled remembrance. And I realized something terrifying. I was hungry too. Not for food, not for blood, for clarity. My own memories had started to fade. Faces blurred, voices slurred. Names slipped from my mind like oil down metal. And in the middle of that hunger, I had a thought. If I ate part of someone I loved, would I remember them again? I wanted to know. I wanted to chew memory. That's when I knew the hive had already touched my brain, already made a home in my hunger. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 17. The people here are eating each other, but it's not cannibalism. Not truly. It's inheritance. They are consuming memory, history, self, and the hive is letting them. Because the hive wants to taste what it forgot. It wants to remember who it was through us. So if someone offers you a bite, don't take it. And if you ever feel the hunger to remember something that should have stayed forgotten, do not feed it. Because the moment you chew that flesh, you're not you anymore. You're just another flavor the hive can file away. There won't be anything left to bury. The higher you go in Hive Primus, the brighter it gets. That's the rule. The nobility live by light, massive lumen arrays, golden glow globes, mirrored glass that bounces the sun from the polluted sky all the way down their marble corridors. Darkness is for the poor. Darkness is for the sump. But not this time. Not last night. Last night, the top of Spire 1 went dark, and it stayed that way for 13 hours. When the lights returned, no one answered. Not a single scream, not a single whisper, only silence. The shutdown was not scheduled. No drills, no warnings, no riots, no atmospheric anomalies. Just an instant flicker, and then complete blackout from level 400 upward. Every screen flatlined, every elevator died. The Vox units stopped mid-word. All surveillance cameras went static at the exact same second. 3:14 hive time. Then nothing. Just black. Thick. Still. Wrong. We were told to wait. To monitor. To observe and prepare. I didn't wait. I took the climb. There's a maintenance stairwell built into the old structural veins, only used during emergencies, never for public access. 2,000 steps. I climbed all of them, with a carbine strapped to my chest and a dim torch in my fist. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from exhaustion, from pressure, like the tower itself didn't want me coming back up. When I reached level 400, the light ended. Even the glow from my torch bent wrong like it didn't want to shine forward. I stepped into the darkness, and it closed behind me. The silence was total, not quiet. Total. No humming pipes, no footsteps, no breathing, like the air had been emptied. I moved through the corridor slowly, pushing past ornamental drapes, past gold-tipped columns and marble arches. Everything still in place. Nothing burned, nothing broken, just untouched, like time had stopped. Then I found the first body. He was standing, not lying down, not slumped, just standing in the center of the hall, eyes closed, hands folded behind his back, like he was waiting for something, or someone. I called out. No response. I stepped closer and realized he wasn't dead, not entirely. His chest still moved, just barely. His lips twitched, but when I touched him, he fell, hollow. There was nothing inside. The weight was gone. The bones, the muscle, gone. Only skin remained, perfectly shaped around an invisible frame. He had been emptied, not killed, harvested. Then I saw the rest, room after room, dozens of nobles, guards, servants, priests, all posed, some seated at tables, some curled in beds, some knelt as if in prayer. Their bodies looked untouched, but every one of them was empty. Their eyes wept clear fluid. Their mouths were open, still mid-sentence, mid-laugh, mid-prayer, like something had pressed pause on their lives just long enough to take everything out of them and leave the shells behind. At the very top, I found the atrium, the domed heart of Spire 1. Windows that once looked over the entire hive were now sealed in a crust of black oil, still wet, still dripping. A symbol was smeared across the main glass, a crude image drawn with something thick and red, a mouth, wide open, not fanged, not angry, just hungry. I walked toward the symbol, boots slipping on the slick floor. That's when the Vox in my helmet activated. No channel, no ID, just one word, digesting. Then silence again, and then laughter. I tried to leave. The stairwell was gone. The doors had fused shut. No sound came when I banged on the metal, just the soft creak of shifting weight above me. I looked up. The ceiling was pulsing, moving, alive. It opened, and something descended. Not a person, not a machine, a shape, long, thin, dripping. It hovered above me for only seconds, then whispered, not with a mouth, but directly into my skull. Light is memory. Memory feeds. Light is gone. Now we feed on the shape of silence. I fired my carbine. The shape vanished, and the power came back. Just like that. As if I'd ended the ritual by resisting it. As if I'd broken the silence with sound. But the tower remained quiet, even with the lights restored. The nobles didn't wake. They didn't rot. They didn't move. The administratum locked down the spire, called it an isolation event, refused all questions, refused all explanations. But I know what happened. I walked in, and I came back out, the only one. Because I screamed, because I made noise, and the hive couldn't digest me with a full voice. Not yet. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 18. Light protects more than sight. It holds things in place. It marks time. It tells the hive when to behave. But when the lights go out, so do the rules. So does the balance. And the silence becomes hungry. It doesn't kill. It empties. So if your lights start to flicker, don't sit still. Don't play dead. Scream. Curse. Sing if you have to. Because silence is a mouth. And if you let it swallow you, the hive is singing now, not in words, not in hymns, but in something deeper, lower, older, a sound made of breath and bone and blood, and it sings through mouths that shouldn't move, through lungs that shouldn't breathe, through flesh that shouldn't be alive. I found it in Transit Tunnel 9, and I haven't stopped shaking since. The tunnel was sealed years ago, collapsed after a mag tram derailed and carved through 3 kilometers of track. The administratum declared it irreparable, but last night I got a signal, not a message, a tone, low frequency, subsonic, carried through pipe walls and vox static like a heartbeat trying to echo. It matched no imperial register, but the pitch was familiar. I'd heard it once before, in the Spire, when the darkness breathed, so I followed it, down. Transit Tunnel 9 sits beneath the Hive's spine, accessed through a half-collapsed airshaft and a 1,000-year-old service stair, long rusted through. I used my torch the whole way. The walls sweated, the air tasted sweet, not like sugar, like decay turned to perfume, like death trying to apologize. And then I heard it. The singing, software monotone, dozens of voices perfectly in sync. No words, just sound, sustained, endless, unbroken. I followed it to the end of the stairwell and found the opening. I expected rubble. I expected collapsed beams and crushed carriages. What I found was a cathedral. The tunnel had been cleared, walls reinforced with flesh, actual flesh, layered, woven like muscle stretched over iron, and in the center of the tunnel, where the tram once ran, was a wall made of people, hundreds fused together, face to face, shoulder to shoulder, chest to chest, their arms wrapped into each other like roots, their spines arched into one long curve of twitching bone, and they were singing, still alive, still breathing, each mouth perfectly timed with the next, each note identical, no change, no rest, just worship. I stared for a long time, too long. Then one of the faces turned to me. The skin peeled slightly, the jaw moved differently, and it whispered, "You made us loud, Marn." I backed away. Another voice followed, from another mouth. "You gave us breath again." Then another, "Now we speak through what remains." I raised my weapon, didn't fire, couldn't, not because I was afraid, because I recognized their faces. Krail, Idrin, the miners from G-Deck, the girl with the black eyes, all there, mouths stretched, eyes closed, singing, their skin still warm, their bodies still feeding the wall. I turned to run, but the floor was soft, wet, alive. It pulsed with every note of the choir. Every vibration echoed through my boots, into my blood, into my skull, and I heard it in my bones. We are memory. We are message. We are what the Hive remembers when it wants to feel. I fell, dropped my torch, fell to my knees, hands sunk into the floor. It sucked at me like it wanted to add me, fuse me into the choir. Let me sing, let me become. Then I screamed, not in fear, in defiance. I roared a prayer, not one from the Ministorum, my own, something broken, something human, a curse, a scream, a name, my name, Marn Tyvak. The floor recoiled. The choir skipped a beat, just one, but it was enough. I pulled free, staggered to my feet, grabbed the torch, and ran. The tunnel screamed behind me, a harmony of 1,000 hungry throats, and in the echo I heard their final words. We will remember you too. Back in the bunker, my skin still hums. There's something under it now, a resonance. Every time I speak, I feel something listening. Every time I breathe, I feel something breathe back. I haven't turned off the recorder since. I think they're still singing through me. I think they left me on purpose. As a carrier, as a conductor, this is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 19. The Hive is building a choir, not of priests, not of singers, but of flesh. Each voice added gives it strength. Each memory sung gives it weight. It doesn't care what you believed. It only wants your voice, your echo, your presence. So if you ever feel the need to hum, to chant, to match a rhythm you've never heard before, bite your tongue, deafen yourself, silence your lungs. Because the moment you join the choir, you're not just singing, you're being sung. Silence used to mean peace. Now it means surrender. Because in Hive Primus, silence is no longer absence, it is presence. A presence that listens, waits, and takes. And I refuse to be taken, not quietly, not on my knees, not like the others. If this is the end, then let it be loud. Let it be defiance. Let them remember my voice. I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I hear the choir. Even though I escaped Transit Tunnel 9, the song still echoes in me. Sometimes in my breath, sometimes in my bones. Sometimes I find myself mouthing the notes without realizing it, but not anymore. I've taped my mouth shut, split my tongue to bleed the song out. I'll spit out every note if I have to, because I've made a choice. I will not be quiet. They came for me last night, not with weapons, not with violence, with hands, hundreds of them, flesh grown from the walls of the bunker, fingers made of memory, palms soaked in amber fluid. They didn't try to kill me. They tried to cover my mouth, to seal it, to hush it, to add me to the hive's ever-growing wall of silence. But I bit down, tore one free with my teeth, burned the rest with promethium, and I screamed. I screamed so hard the lights flickered, so hard the pipes above me rattled, so hard the Vox unit behind me exploded. And that's when I realized the hive doesn't know what to do with a voice it can't consume. It can echo, it can remember, but it can't destroy it. Not if the voice belongs to someone who still believes in it. I went to the old chapel in Sector Sigma 4, one of the last places still untouched by the hive's new growth. Or maybe just ignored. The saints on the walls had no faces anymore, scraped clean, like the hive had forgotten them and wanted others to forget too. I stood in the pulpit and activated the loudspeaker Vox, linked it to every open channel, 1,000 lines, even the broken ones, even the lost ones. I spoke. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. You are not forgotten. You are not systems, not signals, not memories. You are noise. And noise is life. I heard something scream behind the walls, like a wire snapping in anger. Good. Let it snap. I sang, badly, loudly, not a hymn, not a chant. A song my mother sang when I was 5, just a few words, off-key, but it was mine. The Vox systems buckled, screens shattered, walls wept, golden sweat. And then I felt it. The hive blinked. It stuttered, like a brain misfiring, like a memory being rejected. It couldn't hold the note, because the note didn't belong to it. It belonged to me. The choir tried to answer. Transit Tunnel 9 filled the Vox with its monotone hum. But I screamed louder, not a challenge, a warning. I won't join you. I won't kneel. I am not silence. I am not yours. They tried to reach through the speaker again. Hands, vines, teeth. But I overloaded the system, triggered a power surge straight through the Vox array. It fried everything, including me. I woke hours later, bleeding from my ears, my throat raw, the chapel in ruins. But the signal was quiet. The song had stopped. The choir had fallen silent, even if just for a moment. I'd stolen their breath, and that meant they weren't invincible. Now I move sector to sector, screaming into every remaining Vox, singing old tunes, reciting nursery rhymes, whispers of home, anything that didn't come from the hive. And it's working. The walls twitch, the pipes groan, the lights dim when I speak. I am poison to their system, and the hive is learning pain, not physical, emotional, because now it hears me, and it cannot forget me. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 20. The hive may be alive, it may be ancient, it may be becoming something we can't understand, but it can still be wounded, with sound, with soul, with identity. You want to survive, then scream, laugh, cry, tell stories, be loud, be ugly, be human. Because silence is the weapon it uses to erase you. And if you let yourself go quiet, that's when you become part of it. So shout your name, break the Vox, and remember this. As long as your voice still echoes, you are not lost. We thought the hive was mechanical, that its bones were steel, its blood was oil, and its brain was data. We were wrong. It has lungs now. It has flesh. It breathes. And worse, it dreams, and every time it dreams, something rots. It started 3 nights ago. A warm wind blew through the lower districts. Warm, that never happens. Hive Primus is cold, filtered air, rusted pipes, radiated fog. But this wind, it was thick, damp, sweet-smelling. It came up from the sump levels like steam from a corpse. And with it came the flies, tiny at first, metallic wings, shimmering shells. People thought they were scavenger drones. Old Mechanicus tech stirred from slumber, but they didn't scan on auspex. They didn't respond to signals. They just landed, and they listened. You'd feel one crawl onto your neck, then another on your wrist, then 3 more on your face. And before you could swat them, they were inside your nose, your ears, your throat, and if you screamed, they flew out with your voice and carried it away. Next came the tumors, not on people, on walls. Metal began to swell, pipes bubbled like blisters, rivets wept yellow pus, entire corridors pulsed like veins beating in rhythm with the hive's deep rumble. It was no longer running on plasma, it was digesting. You could hear it chewing if you pressed your ear to the floor, chewing something wet, something human. I ran an investigation into the Medicaid wards. There were none left. What was once a clean wing of recovery bays was now a greenhouse, walls covered in mossy skin, beds grown into thrones of bone and fungus, and in the center, a body the size of a crawler tank, but not a corpse, a womb. It was open, breathing, pumping, pushing out sacks of clear jelly. Inside each sack, a face, eyes open, mouths moving, all whispering the same phrase. "We are remembered." I torched the whole ward. It screamed. Not the people, the walls, the tiles curled, the ceiling cracked. A voice moaned from every vent. "We only dream what you fed us." Everywhere I go now, I see infections, not biological, spiritual. Data slates glitch with messages from the dead. Cogitators bleed from their ports. People blink, and their irises spin like machine dials. I saw a servitor praying in reverse, chanting sacred rites backward, while tearing out its own teeth. I asked why. It held one up, a molar, carved with a symbol of Nurgle. "It's a dream tooth," it said. "The hive gave it to me." Then it smiled, all gums. I tried to warn the upper tiers, but the Vox relay was clogged, not with code, with meat. I opened the casing, and veins slithered out. They wrapped around my hand like vines, and whispered, "Why are you afraid of the dream? It remembers you too." I smashed the unit, cut the veins, but the damage was done. The dream had seen me, and now it follows, even awake. Even now, I see it, eyes behind pipes, fingers curled under steel grates, jaws in the walls, waiting to open, waiting to speak, waiting to dream me into plague. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 21. Hive Primus is sick, not with fever, with memory. We infected it with ourselves, our prayers, our history, our screams, and now it dreams those things back at us, twisted, melted, alive. This is no longer a city. It is a body, a god body, still forming, still deciding what to be, and we are its parasites, its food, its dream fodder. So if your corridor smells sweet, if your Vox sings without input, if the metal under your feet feels warm, run, because the hive is no longer sleeping, and when it fully wakes, it will be hungry. They always told us the Arbitorium would stand, no matter what. Floods, riots, Xenos incursions, warp breaches. If the rest of Hive Primus burned, the Arbites would still be there, armored, armed, unshaken. That was the lie. I've seen what remains. Not a battle, not a massacre, a ritual. And they didn't resist, they knelt. The first sign was silence on Channel Red Judge. That's the direct command line for Arbites precincts across the hive. Encrypted, encrypted again. Only used when the chain of command is threatened. It had been quiet for weeks. Then yesterday it lit up. No voices, no orders, just a single sound. Dripping, like something wet sliding across Vox mesh, and beneath it, breathing, not from one throat, from hundreds, software rhythmic, like a choir preparing for prayer. Then it cut out. I made my way to the main Arbitorium with 3 flamer troopers, only I came back, not because I ran, because no one else could move. They made us watch. The gates were open, steel reinforced, triple locked, sacred sealed by decree of the Lex Imperialis, and they were swinging like old barn doors. Inside, the golden eagle had melted, literally melted, turned into a puddle of bubbling brass, steaming on the marble floor, and around it, bodies, not scattered, not killed in combat, arranged, hundreds of Arbites in full armor, kneeling in rows, helmets removed, weapons stacked neatly in piles, hands clasped like penitents in prayer, eyes burned out, tongues bitten off, blood pooled in a perfect circle around them. None of them showed signs of struggle, none were chained. They chose this, or something made them choose. We moved deeper into the command hall. Each room mirrored the last. Courtrooms converted into sanctuaries, cells filled with candles and script etched into the walls with fingernails, doctrines rewritten, imperial law revised in wet, dripping ink across every screen. Obedience is hunger. Order is a mouth that feeds. Judgment belongs to the Hive. The central command console was still active. A single message scrolled on loop, typed exactly 6,777 times. We kneel because we remember. I don't know what that means, but I think they saw the truth of the Hive, and it took something from them, left only obedience behind. Sergeant Vale, one of my flamer team, lost it. He began laughing, then crying, then reciting arrest codes, even started quoting sub-clause penalties for improper equipment storage. It didn't make sense. He ripped off his gloves, tore open his uniform, and knelt. I grabbed him by the collar, tried to drag him back. He looked up at me with no eyes, just sockets filled with golden pus, and whispered, "We already ruled. This is the verdict." Then he bit out his own tongue. We ran. The lights dimmed behind us. The Vox channels screamed with static. But the scream wasn't human. It was judgment itself, pure, merciless, without tone, like the Hive was pronouncing sentence on us for even looking. One of the flamer troopers turned her weapon on herself. The other vanished somewhere in the lower barracks, chasing a voice only he could hear. I reached the surface alone, and the gates closed behind me, not from hydraulics, from decision. The Hive had judged them, and it was done. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 22. There is no command structure left, no hierarchy. The people we trusted to enforce the Emperor's will. They bowed. They tore out their own voices so the Hive could whisper in their place. And it's doing more than whispering now. It's rewriting the law. It doesn't care about guilt or innocence. It only wants order, stillness, silence. So if you still wear the badge, if you still think the chain of command matters, let me say this once, there are no chains, only roots, and they already grew through your spine. We were trained to fear many things: plague, las fire, corruption, warp bleed, mass riots, but not air, not breath, not the simple act of inhaling. That was the mistake, because the Hive is breathing now, and what it breathes out changes you. It started in the service tunnels beneath Sector 31. Unusual pressure buildup reported in the old vent systems. I was already down there investigating a separate case. A worker who claimed to hear children singing through his respirator. I didn't believe him. Now I know he was telling the truth. I found him curled beside an exhaust grate, skin pale, eyes open, lips moving. But he wasn't speaking. He was exhaling, long, steady puffs, as if his lungs had become vents themselves. The song came from his breath, a faint melody like static wrapped around a lullaby. I reached for him, but the moment I touched his shoulder, he disintegrated. not into dust, into mist. His whole body crumbled into vapor and was pulled into the air like he was part of the system now. And then the grate hissed and breathed out. The gas isn't visible, not really, but if you watch closely, the air twitches when it passes, like it's shivering, like it doesn't want to touch anything for too long. But once it does, it changes you. We call it dead breath now, not because it kills, because it replaces. Whatever you were isn't what you'll be after you inhale. I saw a patrol walk straight into a fog pocket near the eastern hab blocks. 4 men, fully suited, vox masked. Didn't matter. The gas seeped through cracks, through seals, through them. They stopped walking, just stood there. Then, one by one, they took off their helmets, smiled, and began to walk backwards, slow, graceful steps, like dancers retracing old steps. One muttered words I didn't understand. Another hummed a tune that made my stomach turn. The last one, he looked at me and said, "Your name is no longer needed. The breath knows it now." Then he laughed and disappeared into the fog. Civilians are being found hours after exposure, alive but wrong. Their eyes glow faintly. They no longer sleep. They forget their families, their own names, but they can recite long-dead dialects from Hive records nobody has accessed in centuries. One child was found singing an imperial funeral dirge written in M42 Gothic. No one taught it to him. A woman began writing scripture on the walls of her hab unit, using her own hair. The same words repeated over and over. "I am no longer I am the breath that dreams." I tried sealing off the ducts. Didn't work. The breath doesn't follow pressure laws. It moves where it wants, through keyholes, through cracks in teeth, through speakers, through memories. I heard my mother's voice in the fog once. She's been dead for 15 years. She told me I was late for curfew. I almost stepped into the vapor before I realized. My mother never called me by that name. The Hive did. The fog did. It's learning us, imitating us, trying to become something we trust. This isn't chemical warfare. There's no smell, no symptom, no antidote. The only sign you've been touched is when you stop asking questions, when you stop wondering why your own thoughts feel softer, when you stop feeling surprise. That's the first sign, calm. Then comes the humming, then the forgetting, and after that, you don't walk forward anymore. You only walk backward, into the Hive's memory, into its lungs, into its dream. I've stopped breathing normally. I siphon air through 4 filters. I drink recycled water only. Even then, I don't trust what I see. Sometimes my own shadow moves differently. Sometimes it hums. Sometimes I catch myself mouthing names I don't remember ever learning. Names that hurt to say. Names that taste like smoke and metal. The Hive's breath is not just air, it's identity. Broken down, rewritten, exhaled. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 23. The Hive has begun to breathe, not like a city, like a creature. It doesn't need to kill. It only needs you to breathe back. And when you do, you become part of it. A memory, a whisper, a name that no longer belongs to a person, but to a gas drifting through the walls. So here is my advice. Do not trust your lungs. Do not trust your voice. Do not trust the next breath. Because the moment the Hive knows what you smell like, it will never forget you, and the fog will follow. We used to say the Hive was a prison, a steel tomb, too tall to climb, too wide to cross, too deep to escape. We were wrong. A prison has exits. Hive Primus doesn't, not anymore. The first signs came from the maglift stations. Dozens of people across 3 sectors reported the same thing. They took the lift, picked a destination, and ended up right where they started. Sometimes the doors opened to the same hallway. Sometimes it was almost the same, but not quite. Graffiti had changed. Lights were dimmer. Doors were missing, like they'd moved into another version of the Hive, one that felt off, less real, and closer to something else. I had to test it myself. I rode the lift from Arbeit's substation 44 to the upper Medicae ring, manually selected the route, locked it in, watched every floor tick by on the screen. Then the doors opened. I was back at substation 44, same graffiti on the wall, same blood smear from the day before, same corpse, still half covered by a tarp. Only now, his eyes were open. He looked at me and said, "Why did you leave me here again?" Then he blinked once and smiled. I took the stairs after that, counted every flight, scratched the walls to mark my path. 10 floors up, my boots wet with condensation, I opened the landing door and stepped into the exact same room I started in. Not similar, exactly the same. Same smell, same flickering light, same Vox unit buzzing that old hymn from Sector Delta. I opened the Vox panel. My scratches were there, but older, rusting, like I made them weeks ago. The Hive is looping us, turning every escape into a circle. You can run, climb ladders, crawl through ducts. It doesn't matter. You'll end up back where you began, if you're lucky. Because sometimes people don't come back at all. Sometimes the lift opens to the void, or to walls made of teeth, or to rooms that bleed when you breathe. And if you step through, you don't return. You become part of the loop, a memory trapped in steel. One enforcer, Kerrick, tried to map it. She was smart, determined, obsessed. She made floor plans, charts, distance logs, walked 300 corridors with signal tracers on her armor. She vanished on pass 307. Her body reappeared a day later, in a locker 2 sectors away, folded like paper, eyes wide open, no wounds, just one message, burned into the inside of the locker. She found a way out. We brought her home. Her map files, all corrupted. Every route turned into a circle. Every arrow pointed inward. Every destination read the same. Beneath the breath, escape pods don't respond. Stairs lead to places that don't exist. One lift opened into a space outside the Hive walls. No sky, no stars, just a ceiling of rusted metal, beating like a heart. I threw a flare into the dark. It never hit the ground. Then something threw it back, burnt, bent, with my name scratched into it, in my own handwriting. We thought the Hive was falling apart. It's not. It's folding, twisting in on itself, eating its own structure, not physically, conceptually. Doors now open to ideas. Rooms echo with feelings. Stairs are no longer built. They're remembered. Every corridor is a mouth now. Every elevator, a throat. And every path is a way for the Hive to taste you. And if it likes what it finds, it keeps you. Forever. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. Log entry 24. There are no more exits. Not through lifts. Not through rails. Not even through death. People have shot themselves, only to be found walking again the next day, their bodies curled in corners of forgotten halls, whispering floor numbers, in languages no one speaks anymore. The Hive won't let us go. It remembers us, and now it's looping us. Like we're a dream it refuses to forget. So if you think about running, if you think the next door might lead out, remember this. The Hive is the map now, and the map only leads deeper. I was shot in the lower gut, not by a traitor, not by a cultist, by an automated defense turret in Sector Gamma 19. A system we installed, a system we programmed. It saw me, recognized me, scanned my badge, and fired. No warning, no hesitation. And when I pulled myself behind cover and looked down at the wound, that's when I knew I wasn't me anymore. Because the blood coming out wasn't red. It glowed green, not bright, not burning, software gentle, like a glow globe through thick fog. It ran slowly, too slowly, not thick like normal blood, more like syrup or machine oil. It whispered as it fell, not loudly, not with words, but I could hear something in it, like static, like the sound of a memory trying to replay, like someone humming a hymn I never learned but somehow remembered. I panicked, tore off my belt, used it to clamp the wound. Didn't help. The blood didn't gush, it crawled, it moved against gravity, up my skin, toward my chest, like it wanted to go home, not leak out, but find its way back in. I tried to cauterize the wound, standard field kit, high heat, burned the flesh, heard the sizzle, smelled my own skin melt. It didn't scream, I did, but the blood didn't boil. It slid beneath the burn, avoided the heat, dug deeper, and then it spoke. It wasn't in words, not at first. It was like emotion with shape, a message formed in pain, and the feeling was regret. Regret for being seen, regret for being known. And then came a thought, not mine. We were not ready. I fell backward, gasping, crying, trying to breathe through a throat suddenly too tight. The blood pulsed on my fingers, and the words came again. The shell is still thinking. It must be slowed. It meant me, my body, my mind, my thoughts. They were slowing the change. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted me quiet, like the others. I crawled into a locked storage unit, sealed the hatch, scanned myself with old medici gear. The results made no sense. My blood type had changed. Cell structure half organic, half synthetic. Gene markers flickering between dozens of patterns per second. And something else. A frequency embedded in my cells. A low hum. The same one I heard on the Vox days ago. The same one coming from the walls. I wasn't just infected. I was tuned. Like a cogitator aligned to the Hive's central pulse. My body was sinking, becoming part of it. I screamed, tore open the wound again, tried to drain it, but the blood just laughed, not with sound, with movement. It spelled words as it spilled. You are not a host, you are a vessel. The dream needs a shape. You are acceptable. I passed out. When I woke, I was still alive. The wound was closed, the blood was gone, but my skin glowed faintly in the dark, and my veins moved on their own, like wires, like roots. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 25. I do not know what I am. I don't know what part of me is left, or if the parts that remain still belong to me. But I do know this. The Hive isn't just changing the city, it's changing us. From the inside out, minds, skin, breath, blood. It doesn't kill, it converts. And I think I'm almost done converting. So if you're still human, if your blood still bleeds red, run. Because once it glows, once it speaks, once it remembers you, you are no longer a person. You're a page in the Hive's living book, and it's still writing. They say the top of Hive Primus touches the stars, that from the Spire's edge you can see the void, clear and full of holy black, a place for nobles, high command, sainted shrines and silver-tongued clergy. But not anymore. Now it's open, not outward, inward. And what crawled through isn't stars or saints. It's something that remembers what we forgot to fear. I climbed the spire alone, No more squads left, no Vox contact, no working lifts, just 9,000 stairs, most of them broken. Along the way, I found melted statues, mirrors filled with fog, once golden chandeliers now dripping with green ichor like honey from wounds. The higher I climbed, the more the gravity changed. My boots floated, then slammed down harder than before. My blood moved sideways inside me. Time cracked like ice. My own shadow peeled away once and walked ahead. I let it. When I reached the top, the summit of the spire, there was no roof, no dome. The structure had bloomed open like a flower. Steel petals bent outward, curling toward the sky. But the sky wasn't there, only a hole, a massive pulsing wound in reality, black, wet, breathing, and something inside it, moving, not climbing down, climbing through, like it was coming from underneath the stars, or from inside the hive's mind. The thing that came through wasn't a god, it wasn't a demon, it wasn't anything we'd named. It was us, tall and terrible and twisted like a reflection caught in bad glass. It had the arms of workers, the eyes of priests, the mouths of screaming children. It walked on legs made of stone angels and laser guns fused together. It carried a throne on its back, a rusted hive throne, empty, waiting for someone. And every step it took was silent, yet every spire beam wept molten tears. The sky bent to let it through, the city bowed in return, and I could hear the thought it breathed. I am the city remembering itself. I am all you discarded. I am what you prayed into the walls. And now I answer. I aimed my last pistol, fired a full charge at its heart. The bolt never landed. It unraveled mid-air, turned to thread. The air laughed. The creature looked at me with a dozen eyes, each one a different face I'd known. My father, my captain, the child with black eyes, all smiling, all hollow. It pointed one massive finger at me and whispered, "We kept you for the ending." Then the wind changed. Not real wind, the hive's breath. It blew upward, not from the vents, but from every street, every pipe, every throat, up into the spire, feeding it, fueling the thing, making the petals unfold wider. The creature crouched and stepped down, into the hive, into us, into the very streets we thought we knew, and the petals curled behind it, sealing, but not closed, beckoning, waiting for the next thing to climb through, or for one of us to climb up. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, log entry 26. Hive Primus is not dying. It is giving birth, not to a god, not to a machine, to itself. A version with memory, a body made from everything we forgot. And now that body has walked through the top of the world, into the heart of the hive, the spire has opened like a mouth, and it isn't finished speaking. So if you hear footsteps above you, if the sky blinks, if the metal underfoot feels warmer, you are not standing on steel. You are standing on a back, and it is waking up. My name is... Wait, it was on the tip of my tongue. I had it when I started this log. I always say it at the beginning. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. Yes. That was it, I think. The signal began 2 nights ago. At first it was just static, a soft hum buried beneath the usual background noise of the hive. But then it grew louder, sharper, cleaner, like something tuning itself. And now it's everywhere. Every Vox channel, every cogitator, every relay tower. Same pulse, same beat, once every 6 seconds. A tone, then silence. Then the forgetting. It starts slow. You forget a name, a code, a shift assignment. You laugh it off. Then it gets worse. You forget your favorite food, your old unit, the street you lived on, the names of people you love. I forgot the face of my partner. We fought together for years. She saved my life 3 times. I remember her laughter, but I can't remember her name, or her voice, or what color her eyes were. Just static. I tried to write things down, use ink, scratch words into walls, but the signal erases more than memory. It erases meaning. You write a name and a minute later, you don't recognize the letters. They twist, they melt, they hum, then they're gone. You say a word aloud and it tastes like ash in your mouth, or worse, like honey, sweet, foul, sticky, wrong. I'm not the only one. Entire sectors have gone mute. People walking with empty eyes, mouthing sounds that aren't words. Some still try to talk, but they speak in reversed syllables, or foreign tongues, or nothing at all. I passed a preacher yesterday, standing on a mound of skulls. He held up his book. His voice was firm, but every word came out as a single repeated phrase. He is not what you thought. He is not what you thought. He is not, over and over, until his lips tore from the repetition. He didn't stop, not even when his jaw cracked. The Vox isn't just transmitting a sound, it's transmitting a desire, a purpose, like it wants us blank, wants us empty, so it can rewrite us, not kill, replace. With what? I don't know. But the people who stop resisting begin to smile, begin to hum, begin to walk in perfect rhythm with the tone, like they've been reprogrammed, like they've been assigned a new task, a new name, a new function. I watched one man collapse in front of me, mid-sentence. He said, "Tyvak, you have to listen to me. I was with the group in Sector 12 and..." Then he paused, frowned, looked up at me and said, "Wait, who is Tyvak?" He looked confused, then terrified, then at peace. He sat down, cross-legged, smiling, and began drawing in the dust, lines, spirals, circuit-like veins. When I touched his shoulder, he whispered, "I remember better now. I don't need to be me anymore. I just need to hum. I've stopped trying to fight the signal. It's in the walls, in the power grids, in my skull. Every few minutes, I feel a twinge, like my thoughts are flickering, like the file system in my brain is glitching, like something's rummaging through my memories, deleting the ones it doesn't need. It leaves just enough to keep me moving, not enough to keep me whole. I had a brother, didn't I? Or a sister. I remember a warm hand, a shared ration, a birthday, no, a loss, something important, gone now. The Vox took it. I can't hold on. I can't. Wait, where was I? Oh, right. This is I still remember. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. Log entry 27. Yes, 27th. Hive Primus has begun erasing its past. Not the records, not the files, the people, their names, their meanings, their shape. The Vox signal is not a message, it's a command. It's telling us to let go of identity, of memory, of self. So if you hear the pulse, if the tone rings in your teeth, if your thoughts feel lighter, fight, write your name, carve it into steel, whisper it again and again, or you will forget it. And when you forget it, so will the hive, and you'll be ready to be rewritten, ready to hum, ready to serve. The child does not blink. He hasn't since I found him near the sump vents 2 days ago. He doesn't cry, doesn't eat, doesn't sleep. He only walks beside me, hand in mine, silent and cold. And every now and then, he hums, the same tune I've heard leaking from Vox channels, from corpses, from the walls. I don't know what he is, but I know what he's for. He's the only thing the hive still makes room for. I packed light, 1 last pistol, 4 charge packs, a rusted prayer scroll from a long-dead preacher, and a name carved into my palm with a knife, Tyvak. It's the only word I still trust, the only thing the Hive hasn't taken from me, not yet. We descend together, no maps now, no staircases, just tunnels made of melted data cables and flaking concrete. The deeper we go, the more the architecture shifts. Doors shrink to keyholes, pipes pulse like veins, signs on the walls change language every few meters. One message repeats, your shape is not your final one. We will sing you new. Down is the only truth. We pass a praying group, 30 of them, former workers, former priests, maybe former enforcers, hard to tell, all kneeling in rows, mouths open, no tongues, just rows of teeth, more teeth than should fit, 3 rows, sometimes 5, not human anymore, not screaming, just humming a prayer. I look closer, the words are being chewed into the stone around them, every bite a letter, every mark a syllable. The child pulls on my hand. We move on, further down. Lights stop working, but the child glows faintly now. Not bright, just enough, like the Hive is afraid to let him go completely unseen. He leads me to a gate, old, sealed, covered in purity seals long burned away. Above it, carved in jagged lines, those who bring the prayer shall be heard. The child opens it with a touch. We enter. Inside, a cathedral made of rib cages, not real ones, steel bent into curves, columns shaped like spines, and a pulpit grown from fused skulls, some still whispering. The air is warm, sweet. I vomit. The child does not react. He walks to the center and kneels. I raise my pistol, aim it at his back, hand shaking, breath catching, because I know this is the moment, the final one. Whatever's happening to Hive Primus, whatever is dreaming through its walls, it's focused here, now, and it's waiting for this child, or for me, or both. He looks back, still no blink, still no sound, just that hum, like he's finishing a prayer someone else started long ago. And then he opens his mouth, and the teeth, they aren't his, they're everybody's. They twist, spiral, click against one another like gears, and the sound is a word, but not a word I understand, a word the Hive remembers, and beneath us, the ground cracks, a voice rises, not deep, not loud, just everywhere. You brought the vessel, you remembered the shape, now speak the ending. I don't know what that means, I don't want to, but something inside me, something that hums when the child sings, whispers back, and I say it, a name I didn't know I knew. It cuts my throat as it leaves, my nose bleeds, my fingers curl, my pistol melts, and the cathedral of bone begins to breathe. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. Log entry. It doesn't matter. I walked into the heart of Hive Primus. I brought the child. I spoke the word. And I think I just finished the prayer. Or maybe I started a new one. Either way, the Hive is listening, and it is smiling, with teeth that no longer belong to us. Hive Primus is no longer a city. It has stopped pretending. The towers don't stand anymore. They lean, they pulse, they breathe. The roads are no longer made of rockcrete. They've gone soft, and they bleed when you step on them. I saw a statue of Saint Marek the Unyielding fold inward on itself, like paper or skin. His holy pose turned to a kneel, and then he opened his mouth and screamed, not in pain, in worship. The city is becoming what it always wanted to be, whole, and it's doing it by eating us. The buildings are not falling, they're melting into veins, into ligaments, into hive flesh that pulls tight between spires like muscle over bone. Hab blocks shudder with rhythm, vents exhale warm breath, and the floors, they move now, like conveyor belts of meat. If you stand still, they carry you, always inward, toward the heart. I saw Sector 12 collapse today. Didn't explode, didn't burn. It folded, pulled itself into a spiral. Glass melted over steel. The windows blinked, and then the entire block sank into the ground like it was being swallowed. I heard the people inside. Didn't scream. They sang. Same hymn, same tone. Always the same. Like the signal we couldn't block. Like the hum that started everything. I tried to run, tried to climb, but every stairway led down. Every corridor returned to itself. Every turn brought me back to the child. He just stood there, smiling now, eyes black and wide, hands folded. He pointed at a wall of meat pipes. I stepped through and saw what the city had become. The main square is gone. Now it's a moor. Where statues once stood, now there are teeth. Dozens, thousands, carved from concrete and enamel. The fountains, spewing bile. The sky above, gone, replaced with a ceiling of stitched metal plates, each one trembling like muscle. The stars are not allowed anymore, only the Hive's dreams, and they are not ours. There are no more enforcers, only shells wearing their armor, faces smooth, eyes replaced with spinning lenses. They do not speak, they buzz like flies, like machines that remember they were once human. They drag the remaining people into open doors, doors that close like mouths, doors that smile when they shut. I tried to stop one, shot it point blank in the head. It didn't bleed, it echoed, my own voice, saying, "Thank you for feeding me." I found the cathedral again, or something like it, no longer made of ribs. Now it's made of mirrors. Each one shows a different version of me, some older, some burned, some screaming. One had no face. The child stepped inside. I followed. In the mirror ahead, I saw the Hive, not as buildings, as organs. Spire towers equals vertebrae, railways equals arteries, worker tunnels equals intestines, and at the center, a black chamber, throbbing with light. I knew then, the Hive was never dying. It was transforming, and now it was alive, and it was hungry. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak. I don't know what's left of me. My hand is made of metal now, not because I replaced it, because it replaced itself. I speak words I don't understand. I hum in my sleep. I dream of eating stone, of swallowing trains, of licking data from cogitators like honey. And every day, more of the city curls inward, tightening, compressing, consuming, until all that remains will be the core, a perfect thought, written in flesh and named Hive Primus. If you are outside this place, if the sky above you still breathes, stay away. Do not answer the signals. Do not listen for survivors. There are none. Only reflections, only echoes, only what the city lets you see, because it wants to expand, wants to eat your world next, unless it is stopped. But I don't know if it can be, because we didn't just build Hive Primus, we fed it, with blood, with labor, with belief, and now it believes in itself, and belief in the end is what gives a god its shape. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, or what's left of him. This is my final transmission, not because I'm dead, not because I've escaped, but because there is nothing left to say that matters, nothing left of me that hasn't already been carved into the Hive's walls, sung into its pipes, or swallowed by its mouth. Hive Primus is no longer a city. It is a god dreaming in metal and meat, and that god is almost done dreaming. When it wakes, it will reach out. It will not ask. It will not invade. It will simply exist, and that will be enough to erase everything that isn't it. I sit now at the very center, the place we thought was a reactor core. It isn't. It's a womb. The city is coiled around it like a mother holding breath, waiting, humming, The child I brought here, he's not here anymore. Or maybe he is. Maybe he was the city all along, or the memory of the first brick laid, or the echo of prayers screamed into cold walls for generations. Or maybe he was just hope, twisted into a shape that fit the hive's hunger. Doesn't matter now, nothing does. The last of the old world collapsed last night. The spires cracked and folded downward, bending like soft fingers pressing against their own palms. Every building still standing is now hollow skin wrapped over nothing. You can see faces inside the walls. You can hear names whispered in pipes. You can feel the floor hum with breath. And when you look up, there is no sky, just ceiling, woven from prayer, regret, and teeth. I tried to pray, tried to speak the Emperor's name, but my voice turned into numbers. I wrote a litanic verse on the wall. The wall ate it, swallowed the words and whispered, "We remember louder than your gods." I laughed, or maybe I cried. It's hard to tell the difference now. The vox static sings lullabies. My veins twitch in Morse code. Even my thoughts have started looping. I remember dying 4 times, but I'm still here, still walking, still recording, because someone needs to know. Someone needs to stay away. To whoever finds this signal, to whatever inquisitor, rogue trader, or scavenger crew picks this up years from now, listen to me. Hive Primus is not just dying, it is being born. It has rewritten its own purpose. It is building a new shape from old sins. It doesn't want to conquer, it wants to be left alone. And if you disturb it, if you come looking for relics, for survivors, for answers, you'll find nothing but yourself, eaten and rewritten in ways your mind cannot carry. Hive Primus does not forgive. It does not remember out of kindness. It remembers because it wants to be real, more real than you, more real than faith, more real than the Imperium. And now it is. So if you still hear this, if you still have Vox signal at the edge of the void, take this message, lock it away. Do not investigate, do not respond, do not come. Let the hive sleep. Let it finish its song in silence, because once it sings again, the galaxy will listen, and it won't survive the chorus. This is Enforcer Marn Tyvak, last of the 3rd Enforcer Battalion, Hive Primus, Necromunda. Final message, Hive Primus is dying. Do not come. Let it die. Let it dream. Let it be forgotten, or you will be remembered in ways you never chose. If this story chilled you to the bone, share it with someone brave enough to listen. Like and subscribe to Void-Born Terrors, and hit the Vox bell for more haunting Warhammer 40K horror tales from the darkest corners of the Imperium. Comment below, what do you think Hive Primus became? Was it reborn, or was it always alive? The hive sleeps now, but not for long. We'll see you in the next nightmare.